Which brings us to old business. So NJ Middletown Walk, Mr. Johnson. So we'll give the hard copy version.
Well, listen, we're going to have two versions.
True.
Because Professor Katz said
That's true.
Can we just go up? I mean, just, John, just really straighten it out.
Mr. Chairman, John Hope here on behalf of Toll Brothers Middletown Law. This is a continued application. Since the last application, we did submit a request for an amendment to permit a subdivision of a portion of the site because that was an oversight on my part, because it was part of the purchase and sale agreement that this parcel was going to be retained. It is the prior existing lot 81, and it's exactly the same lot. It was pre-existing to the application, except along Kings Lane, there was a dedication to the road widening, and that lot was, I think, originally 15.4, and now it's 15.23 acres because of the additional road dedication along Kings Lane for that expansion. And then, so that's part one. Part two, we'd like to request a modification to our phasing plan because I want to put phase 1A as the connector road in the basin and the phase 1B, the residential, which is all in one phase. But in the event that NRD was to proceed first, they would be able to operate under phase 1A, which is just for the interconnector road in the basin with minor change. And then finally, with regard to the issue of rooftop decks, our clients are able to study that issue pretty carefully, and we have a proposal to minimize the impact of the Carriage Drive residents because by limiting that 40 units along Carriage Lane to the front of the building, that would restrict any use of the rear overlooking the neighbors. There is a 4-foot parapet that is all around the building, but it's also at the halfway point of the building, so it would separate the roof deck, which would be at the front of the building, from the roof surface, which is at the rear. And we have exhibits, and they will present that. subdivision. And then Jeremy Green and Matt went over for the roof deck presentation. We also submitted to the board a revised set of rules and regulations for the homeowners association, along with copies of these plans. So, let me ask Mr. Kennedy to be sworn.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yes, so he's sworn.
He was sworn previously. You remain on the roof.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, you're aware of the requirement in our contract that the seller retains a lot?
That's correct.
And in that regard, did you prepare a revised plan showing that lot and for subdivision purpose?
Yes, we did. It's really reserving lot 81, the former lot 81 that has frontage on Kings Lane is, as Mr. Rento stated, a little in excess of 15 acres. It also has one of the historic structures on it, and it has wetlands and open space areas that are being reserved and preserved by restriction. The subdivision is granted. Can you help me with this? Is the microphone working?
Yeah.
Okay.
That portion is part of the redevelopment plan, the residential district and the townhouse portion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So this would be, my notes reflect we're up to 12, so this would be 813.
813.
So just like last time, 813 is duplicated twice, one for the public, which is Costa, and one that I can point to on the right side. I also have 11 by 17s for the board.
You're handing them out. Why don't we mark one of the small ones so we can keep it in the file, 813 on there.
So 813 is the subdivision layout plan with a revision date of August 19, 2019. It was prepared under my direction and control. It shows in the upper right-hand portion a red outline area. That's lot 81. That's the 15 acres that's to be retained by the seller. And that's the lot that we propose, that we request subdivision.
Commissioner, could you put it out for us, please?
It's just a regularly shaped rectangle, again, along Kings Lane. So this shows the full parcel. This is the upper right-hand corner with that kind of tail that went in the line along Kings Lane, and that's the 15-acre parcel to be subdivided.
Excuse me, historic, you said something.
There is a historic home that's identified and actually outlined on the exhibit as a home that was identified as having historic.
Is that home occupied? Is that occupied or is it one of the part of this?
I don't know.
I haven't got it.
Yeah, it's one of the part. Yeah. Okay.
It is not occupied, it's falling apart,
Right.
it's boarded up, but it was recognized on the Davin house at 33 Kings Lane, and it was recognized as having some historic significance, because I think it's first ever Greek revival. It was, it's a perfect example of a Greek revival house, but there's nobody living there.
No, it's not happening.
It's dilapidated.
And we don't propose to do anything with that lot. The retained lot, of course, would be subject to site plan approval. There's no, it's basically just a contractual obligation that that portion, that 15 acres, be retained by the seller.
Now, Jim, the lot conforms under the redevelopment plan, is that correct?
Yes, it does.
But under the PD zone, is there a minimum lot size requirement of 20 acres?
Yeah, PD zone requires 20 acres, this is 15.23 acres. So a variance from the underlying PD zone is required to retain this lot 81.
Now, did you examine what would be necessary to meet 20 acres?
Well, we did, and certainly with the size of the parcel, we could conform with a 20-acre subdivision, but it would become extremely unusually shaped. The 20-acre remainder would basically come over onto the detention basin and then run up the side of some of the open space areas. It makes no sense to provide that additional 5 acres because it's unusually shaped. Your ordinance at 540-640, I believe it is, talks about not creating unusually shaped lots. And it would certainly be unusually shaped. It would really have no benefit because these unusual appendages that we have to put on this rectangle would be for that 5-acre compliance, but they would be of no use. That's first. Secondly, it would take some control of those areas away from the homeowners association, which from the applicant's standpoint is not appropriate and not the idea. So creating a rectangular 15-acre lot, there is no, from an engineering perspective, there is no detriment to providing a 15-acre lot that's normally shaped, that has frontage, that has the ability to be developed in accordance with the ordinance, and that preserves the open space that we've carried under our site, and that has wetlands that would be conserved as well. So there really is no detriment to this lot area variance from an engineering standpoint.
If we approve this variance, I know on lot 80 I've inspected, and there's a lot of trucks and equipment into your property.
That's
That could be taken care of?
So Mr. Bennett has already agreed with this applicant, with the seller, that the tiles that are there, the recycling tiles, would be relocated or with some agreement as to maintaining what he does on his property, on his property.
Is that a question for you? I was looking for that zone and kind of the statement of purpose for that zone, the minimum 20 acres. Do we happen to know that?
Yes, actually, the PD zone was a part of the settlement agreement, and it was, at that time, it was intended to have a commercial as well as a residential portion for the entire Rose Tract. This was 25 years of litigation. And and this was before my time, it was adopted in 2009, I wasn't a part of this township then. But particularly, the idea for that was to not further subdivide the lots into tiny pieces. That is why they stipulated a minimum of 20 acres.
So is this the only place where this zone occurs?
Yes.
That's correct,
Oh.
yes.
Now, Jim, in addition to a portion of this site being restricted by open space and environmental conditions, it also, that easement provides access to the public for the open space.
Yes, it does. And I did misquote the ordinance, I went off my head and said my notes. It's 540-624D1. That talks about creating unsuitable lots of unusual shape. So, yes.
So in your opinion as a professional engineer, if the board were to grant this requested variance under the PD zone, recognizing there's no variance under the redevelopment ordinance, would that upset the zoning scheme of plan of the municipality in your opinion?
No.
In fact, this would achieve the protection of the wetlands and the open space required for the residential, or for the entire redevelopment area.
That's correct.
And likewise, would it upset the health and welfare of the community?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I know,
Well, Jim, I'm struggling here. The wetlands, the open space, et cetera, are all protected now.
Well, they will be.
the open space is not yet protected. That's part of the, in the event the board approves the application, one of our requirements will be to record a deed of open space which provides, amongst other things, that space can't be developed, but it also provides access so that if someone's out there walking around, they have the rights, meaning the residents and the homeowners and so forth, they have the rights to walk through the property. But that easement is not yet created.
Who will have title to that land, to the 15 acres?
Mountain Hill.
Or some entity related to that. right?
But Mountain Hill is the current owner. It doesn't, I don't know what they will do or not do, but we don't intend to change that ownership.
So really,
That's where you, but this is where you counted this in the open space plan for the entire tract.
Correct.
and this is still part of the tract. So it.
But it won't be if after you do all your closings and those 15 acres stay with Mountain Hill.
Well, so it was done on the tract basis. So in Village 35, our parcel, the affordable parcel at the corner, the proposed 15-acre parcel to be retained, the open space was calculated on a tract line basis with all lines. So regardless of the future subdivision, it was calculated on a tract line basis. So what we're really talking about is the utilization of this white area that is outside and isolated from the remainder of our site. It's isolated because we have a Bennett property, lot 80 next door. We then have a wetlands buffer and open space area to the rear. That isolates that upland area. That's why I can comfortably say that there's really no impact to the zone plan. Because if we created a 20-acre tract, all we would do is add wetlands and open space areas to that 15-acre tract. There's no planning benefit to doing that because the public has the right over the parcel, notwithstanding the laws. So the 15-acre tract is just simply a retained parcel with the same benefits and rights that the remaining open space has. That's confusing more, I hope not.
Yeah.
If we just technically move the lot to 20 acres, all it does is add additional open space that's already reserved as part of the toll piece.
So it's just not one contiguous 20 acres, is what you're saying.
Say that again?
It's not one contiguous 20 acres. You're dividing it up into what looks to be basically a square or close to a rectangle, but yet that part that's below that is at least intellectually included in the 20 acres, correct?
Functionally.
Functional, there you go.
Yes, functionally it's already there. So functionally, and think of it as the reciprocal of what you just said. The open space that is accommodated on the 15-acre parcel is functionally already part of our open space that we propose. So functionally speaking, the underlying ownership is of less importance because the public still has the right over all of the open space, whether it's retained by Mountain Hill, or retained by Toll, or retained by Village 35, or the affordable housing.
I have a simple question. In the future, part that's not open space, that small little
The white area.
the white area, that could be developed. Am I correct?
It could be developed, but a site plan application, of course, would need to come before this board.
How many acres is that?
That upland piece is, it meets the ordinance, I believe it's just less than 5 acres. About 3 acres.
I'm sorry, maybe it's a question to you, maybe it's a question to Sam. My understanding based on this is there is a formula to calculate the amount of open space that is required.
Correct.
Okay. And that formula is based on the acreage of the development?
No, it's based, Jim is correct, it's based on the entirety of the tract. So what they did is open space for the commercial portion, they call it the commercial, the redevelopment area.
Right.
Call it the commercial tract, and then they call it the residential tract. And the redevelopment plan is silent in terms of the minimum lot acre. They just talk about the residential tract having 66 acres. So what they have done is, because the redevelopment plan also refers to the underlying PD zone, so what's in the underlying PD zone, the underlying PD zone is a 20-acre minimum requirement, is why it gives this variance requirement.
Right, no, I understand why they're asking for the variance.
Right.
My question is about if we grant this, and that basically that square, right, remains with the existing owner, right? That counts, you're saying counts, it's part of the tract.
That is correct, it counts, but it's the concern that I had, I'm sure the board probably has, is what is the purpose if we give it to them and it's a separate lot? So that's why I've asked them in the letter to have a conservation easement to ensure that it is an open space and it continues being used as that, and the other thing was an access easement. So the whole idea is the enjoyment of people in total Middletown walk. So those were the two things that we've asked.
And we agreed to providing both of the access easement and conservation easement of the open space.
And is it the conservation easement, or is it the underlying lot, new lot that would be created that would prevent development of that lot?
It's a host of things that would prevent development of the grade areas.
Right.
One is if this is approved and a conservation easement is filed, then that is a township easement for that property to benefit the Middletown. Secondly, there's environmental regulations with regard to wetlands buffers. Third, you have a site plan approval requirement. So whatever happens there, any homes or anything that's non-exempt from development, will come before this board or the zoning board for approval.
What is the permitted use of that remaining lot? What's the permitted use?
So the permitted use, there are two things. They would go by the underlying, because this portion is as part of the redevelopment. The only thing they could do over there is put other town homes. But they have to be in compliance with the redevelopment plan in terms of the coverage, the number of units. So they can't put in like 500 units there. It's impossible to put. But the redevelopment plan has a maximum stipulation of 400 units. But then there's another point that I want to point to the board is there's also a historic house there. So whatever they do in the future, they will have to come to you. So they will have to get a site plan approval. They can't just really put anything there.
With that site plan for those 5 acres, could it be relegated only for residential or could it be for commercial use? It's strictly residential?
It's under the residential
It's
tract.
under residential tract.
It's under
So it would be residential?
Yes.
Okay. No warehouses, nothing like that, but strictly be residential?
I'm sorry.
It could be a farm.
Or it could be a farm. I
Be
mean,
a farm, okay.
there is no application right now. We're speculating what it could be in the future. But what I would like to point to the board is whatever they do in the future, it's part of the residential tract. So they would have to, so it wouldn't be like, say for example, if these guys had 65% minimum lot coverage, doesn't mean that that also will be permitted as 65. It would be the entirety. So these guys are at 37. So whatever is remainder, they have to provide that along with the parking, along with everything. So with the rest of the regulations sort of restrict what would go there, It's what, 5 acres?
Well, the upland is about 3 acres.
3 acres.
So, right, and we have setbacks, but the redevelopment plan does not go away just because there's a lot of setback. So there's obviously still that overlapping jurisdiction. So the PD zone and redevelopment zone still apply.
You seem to be counting this tract at least 2 different ways, 2 different times. What? I'm completely missing what is in Mountain Hills' benefit to take over, in effect, was your open space / wetlands. You agree?
I think that's a mystery.
It's funny.
It's a mystery. I understand why they would want this 5 acres. But if it's being subdivided off, then how do you count it in your tract?
No, well, that is foreseen by the redevelopment zone. That, they told us exactly how to calculate it on a tract basis. That's why we had to do a combined plan with Village 35 that showed the subdivision and how everything was meant on a tract-wide basis, not on a lot-by-lot basis. For instance, the affordable parcel, that's 3.956 acres. If you were to look at the redevelopment zone for that tract, for that parcel, for that lot, it wouldn't meet the redevelopment zone standards. It doesn't work. It works on a tract basis. That's why this whole area was a redevelopment zone and not on a lot-by-lot basis.
So as I understand it, any development of that square would be pursuant to the redevelopment plan. The only permitted use is
Residential
multifamily residential.
or townhomes.
Okay.
Not even multi-family, I think it would be townhome, it's under the townhome district.
Well, I'm including that as part of multifamily. And it would have to then conform to all the redevelopment plan standards, including open space, setbacks, number of units, whatever height, et cetera.
All the design criteria, everything.
Right. But there's a potential use of that property, whether it's for 10 townhomes or 6 or,
You can.
You can't get there. I don't think you can get there.
And,
townhomes?
yes, you give, it's a pretty lot, and you can driveway, parking, circulation,
Historic structure.
historic structure. If they have to get SHPO approval, they have to get SHPO's approval. It's not something that they could just, and most importantly, they have to get your approval.
And 5 years ago, when we entered into this agreement, that was part of the contract. And when we went through redevelopment,
So, we don't know what goes there. Whatever goes there has to meet, at this time, has to meet the redevelopment plan, or they would have to get variances from that, whether from this board or from the zoning board. So, since there's no concrete plan before the board, it's going to get developed pursuant to the current ordinance, whatever that may be.
The only thing, we can control here is conservation of the open space, conservation of access easements for the homeowners. But there is no variance created because of that, especially the way the redevelopment plan is being talked about the residential.
That's the better way to think about this. The state told what the entire piece. They could develop that portion.
correct.
The town. How many? I don't know. But they didn't buy the whole piece. They bought this part. They're not buying that part. And that part still has some development potential left in it. And we're speculating as to what that is.
And the historic house.
I mean, it's a historic house, we had historic houses.
Yeah, but that's a serious impediment to this. From my perspective, it's a serious impediment because of its location. But again, I have no idea what, if anything, Mountain Hill would do with it. It's our contractual obligation. When the contract was signed, it's been over 5 years. And I should have picked it up at the time we did the redevelopment plan, but I did not.
So what happens if we say no?
I guess we'll have a long wrestling match.
Well,
But it is permitted, you gotta understand, it's a permitted lot under the redevelopment plan. It's the PD zone says 20 acres, and you have to have some basis to say no.
we could create a very unusually shaped lot to add additional open space and wetlands to that underlying lot. And create a community for lot. But I'm telling you that there's nothing to be gained by doing that. From a planning, from an engineering perspective, there's just nothing to be gained by creating a rectangle with a weird appendage coming off it just to create 5 acres more. It has the same utility as the remaining. It's still conserved, it's still access easement. There's no benefit to the public, to the future owners of anything.
It would be a great spot for a new Middletown park, though.
Or farm.
I don't know about farming, but that's an issue for the assessor at some point.
It can be farmed, that is a permitted use under the redevelopment.
And when you have an open space easement, conservation easement on the great majority of property, that'll be up to the assessor at some time as somebody made an application for assessment.
Well, I think that from an agricultural perspective, that would not be very useful soil.
That's for the assessor at some point, so it might be a farm or not, it might be a farm now.
So historic site.
Does the historic status apply only to the building, the structure, or is it?
Because they have done their environmental review, I think, the phase 1 and phase 2, which identified it as a historic structure, but it's not, it is not, they identified that it met the criteria. See, there's a different criteria, there's, the historic preservation, the state historic preservation office has, they said it met that, but there was no application made.
I understand that. My question is it just the structure, or is there some historic preservation across the tax property?
I think it's just structure, if I recall correctly. I don't know for sure, but I believe so.
I agree with that.
I mean, at some point, people are allowed to develop, tear down, rebuild historic structures. There's a process you have to go through in terms of notification, inventory, giving an opportunity to purchase it, all that kind of stuff. But
And create a historical record of the issues.
doesn't mean it doesn't go away. It could be saved, it could be a lot of it. We're speculating as to what can happen. All I'm saying is if overly look the entire piece, they could put a section of X number of additional townhomes in there, and 50 workers. So there's 6 or 60. Who knows? Or it could be a farmhouse, or it could be,
Or even a single family dwelling, they could replace that and put another dwelling, or they could just upgrade this dwelling unit. I mean, there are multiple possibilities, but they cannot put a commercial shopping center there. That's for sure. It's not zoned for that.
Be a terrible location.
The taxes on that land, that's separated, does that be paid by Mountain Hill or by others?
it'd be paid by the owner.
By the owner of Mountain Hill.
So the last point we wanted to go over was the rooftop terraces. And this is So we prepared a plan.
I'm not sure that we're ready to walk off of this.
Okay.
Agree on these items, all 3 in their entirety.
Well, you would be, if the vote tonight, it would be on the entire application, including these additional matters. I should note for the record, since the Junco did serve and publish notice, negligence that I mentioned that before, so it was in order, so these additional matters that are added to the application were noticed properly. So if there were a motion to approve, it would be for the entire site plan and this subdivision lines, also including a variance for the wall behind those units along Kings Highway, which is a big variance for the wall. That would be here.
And subdivision of the affordable housing tract.
Subdivision for the affordable housing. This doesn't have to comply with the specific in the.
It does not.
Does not.
It's 3.9 acres.
So you would be voting, if that's the case, you'd be voting at all. If you want to make a motion saying, I'm approving it all, but not that part, then that would be the motion. If somebody wanted, there was a problem about one matter, we get into a situation sometimes where perhaps that might be a better discussion and kind of like a straw vote almost on the one matter, so the board wouldn't inadvertently be voting down something because of one small thing. But whoever frames the motion. I mean, if this subdivision became a big issue and it was lumped into one big vote, and the board said no because of that, then that's what you would have done. But either that's resolved before at least some consensus was reached before that motion. Otherwise, we wind up in a pretty strange situation.
Well, and I want to make sure that I address the questions, and maybe I didn't clearly. So we could provide a 20-acre conforming lot, and I did a concept plan to show what that 20-acre conforming lot was. And this might better demonstrate why there's no functional difference between this 15-acre rectangle and a 20-acre conforming lot. So I prepared an exhibit, A14, I guess? A14. So A14 is a subdivision layout plan. It's dated August 26, 2019, and this I refer to as a conforming 20-acre parcel.
Do you have some more copies of this one?
Yeah.
Please show.
So again, we have two on the easels, and we're passing 11 by 17s of the 20-acre conforming concept plan. So what it does is that rectangle that we saw in Kane's Lane, well, we now expand it. We expand it by 5 acres by including the basin. I'm sorry, not including the basin. The line cuts through along the edge of the basin, goes back around the townhomes, back into the area between Carriage Drive and the back of the homes, and then squares up against the lot. This would be a conforming 20-acre parcel. There's no functional difference between what we propose and the conforming 20-acre plan, because everyone has the right to use and occupy the open space areas. So we've just included more open space areas in that lot, but functionally, they have a right to use that, and they'll keep that right to use that property, being that it's open space of the tract that's conserved and deconstructed. So it just makes, from a planning and engineering standpoint, it makes a lot more sense to keep the lot uniformly shaped and to keep the areas under the homeowners association control instead of a future neighbor's control. Those areas are not developable. They will be conserved. They'll be under a deed restriction. They can't be used by that future, by the landowner. But they can only be used by the future full homeowners. So that's why I'm saying there's no functional difference. There's just detriment to providing this 20-acre parcel, because again, it creates an unusually shaped lot, and it puts areas of the lot under someone else's control, where the homeowners association really should have control. So functionally,
How will own this new,
we own those areas. However, the future homeowners would be able to use it, access it.
how will own that this way, all in effect to retain development rights on that 3 acres? You see why we don't think this makes, we can't get our head around this, Jim.
Honestly, I can't get my head around why there's this retention in the contract. The attorneys had it planned and did it. I don't know what the ultimate goal here is. It's a 3-acre tract that I don't think has much. If it did have value, then I would think that Toll probably would have tried to retain it and utilize it. I don't know what those future plans are. In my mind, I've always considered it the farm tract, but that's because that's lot 81. But from an engineering standpoint, adding all these little legs to it, it just doesn't make sense, because functionally, it's the same. So we would then have a conforming application. We would still file the conservation deeds and the access easements. But what we're asking for is a variance, to not do...
From the PD zone.
From the PD zone, thank you. Yeah, from the PD zone. To not do this unusually shaped lot. To allow lot 81 to be retained by the mountain. Either way, whether it's a 15 or a 20 acre parcel, there's a contractual obligation to have this area retained by owner. We could do it in a manner that conforms, which I think is a lesser plan, or we could do it in a manner that doesn't conform, which I think is a better plan.
I think there's something missing from this discussion, and at least where I sit, is going back to the zone requirements. At some point, somebody landed on 20 acres for a reason. I don't think anybody here was here, maybe somebody was, but do we have any, I don't know, legislative history, or Sandy kind of alludes to the fact that it was a little controversial?
The whole tract towards Mountain Hill, it is a part of series of litigation. It started with building 1.2 million square feet town center and got boiled down to 600,000 square feet to finally 400,000 square feet and 400,000 square feet commercial and 400 units with 80 affordable.
Did it start at 1.7?
Yes, 1.7
Yeah.
million square feet. So the 20 acres, I wouldn't, to be frank with you, I wouldn't give much mind to that part. Like, why was it 20 acres? It was 20 acres perhaps that this 118 acres should not get further subdivided into smaller 5-acre lots. I believe that was the intent. But what they're proposing to do is a 15-acre lot with, you know, my concern about the whole subdivision from a plan point of view was more about retaining the open space, having a conservation easement, as opposed to the size of the lot. Now, the size of the lot would come into play should Mountain Hill come before the planning board for any. Yes. So now there are two things. If they came to the planning board under the redevelopment plan, they will have to be in compliance with the everything. The townhomes have to meet the setbacks. They have to meet. They cannot have more than 400 units. They have to meet the height requirements. They have to meet everything. If they said, "Oh, we don't want to do that, and we just want to come as the underlying PD zone," they could come as a single family. They could build a house, which would be perfectly okay for them to do, because there is a house there, you know. So the redevelopment plan has certain restrictions that they need to comply with. The PD zone has restrictions that they need to comply with, and we don't know. I mean, I have the same question. Why are you even going through this subdivision?
They're retaining it, let's cut to the chase. They're retaining it as an economic value. Whether it's $1 or $1 million,
Right.
it has economic value.
Right.
I mean,
Part of the
so
negotiation.
that's what they're doing, and Toll's not buying it, and they're retaining it, and they're gonna retain whatever rights they may have, like anybody else, to develop their property. And that's just it. I mean, there's no big mystery. They think it's valuable, and they want to keep it. Kathy, if you look at the Oliver Court, Juliet Court, and Valley Court there, and you just kind of like draw a little rectangle around that, that kind of fits in the developable property. And that's roughly, that's 26 units. Yeah, I mean, if you kind of like that fits. You can see, it fits in the white spot, right? I mean, it may not fit with, I mean, you're not designing it, but there's roughly 26 units in that section of this development. But, you know, you can look at the eyeball, it's roughly, it fits in there, whether it fits in every capacity, setback, distance, whatever. There's an economic use of that property, whatever that may be. And that's for, at that point, there could be an application made by Mountain Hill or a successor on that property saying, or maybe Cola says, you know what, we listened to this, we get 20 more years of that, we're all in. I mean, whatever it may be, there's use of that property. And they want to retain it. And it will be covered by your zoning ordinance. It's speculative to figure out, you know, I mean, I'm speculating saying it's 20, but you know, there's something that fits it.
Especially if they buy business for.
Well, Bennett's property is not redeveloped
have to,
What keeps them from buying Bennett property and coming in with a site plan for the entire
then they would,
existing 3 and change and whatever the hell Bennett?
they would require use variance if they do that, a use variance. They would require Bennett's property would not be, isn't a permitted, I don't know what the zone is, Bennett's,
It's
it's also in the PB.
Commercial.
It's in the PB zone. But it's not a part of the redevelopment plan, is what I'm saying.
Is it in the PB zone?
Yeah, I think it's in the PB, right?
It has to be, it's in the PB zone.
Yeah, I have it.
Whether they combine this with Bennett's property or not,
But that's again a speculation.
speculation. There's some economic value, even if it's just as a single family lot. And they contracted to keep it, and it needs a variance, and they're explaining why they think the variance is just.
I'd love to see the marketing on that. Right? Hey, beautiful new home, right next to the Bennett property and the recycling center with woods and mosquitoes and deer and everything behind you. I mean, I get that there's economic value, but oh my gosh,
What
really?
is it?
Yeah, and you got industrial buildings across the street.
But it would be a nice donation for a park for Middletown. Especially with all those apartments where we were saying, where are all these kids who are in these apartments, in these townhouses going to get around? Trails through that area would be a good idea, but as a good neighbor policy. No, we can't make them, but I'm just throwing it out there as a good neighbor policy.
Jim, why we with a plan, and here's a 20 acre parcel. I think it makes more sense to make it a 15 acre parcel. Why not just come in with a 3 point whatever acre parcel?
We wanted to see the great, first of all, we wanted to keep lot 81. That's an existing lot. Lot 81 is an existing tax lot. We're doing a slight roadway, widening along Hayes Lane. Other than that, lot 81 is an existing lot. So what we thought was we would just follow the lot line of lot 81.
That was determined in the contract.
Where is 81?
It's that square. Lot 81 is this
That's that whole square.
exact square, except for Hayes Lane widening.
It's the same lot that exists now, when they did the subdivision, they gave up, they dedicated right of way on Kingstown.
To widen the street to municipal standards.
Because it's part of the subdivision, it has to be done. We can't keep the lot 81 in the subdivision.
Yes, you can move on to terraces.
Hey, Jim, did you also prepare a exhibit demonstrating a proposal to modify the roof decks to limit impacts to the Carriage Drive residents?
Yes. So 815, Mr. Gordon, is another exhibit that basically shows the 40 units that were identified by the board and by the neighbors as the units that would most impact the Carriage Drive homes. Those 40 units are in line and adjacent to the westerly, the easterly border of the property. They're colored in on the exhibit. And on these homes, the roof terraces would be relegated to the front of the roofs. So what that does is it changes the sightline, the visibility, the noise, the glare. It moves into the front of the building. And because of the length of the unit, there would be no sight line from Carriage Drive up towards the roof. And for the people on the roof terraces, you would never see down towards Carriage Drive because the roof gets in the way. The two areas of the roof would have a parapet separating them, 48-inch parapet. The front of the terraces, and I don't know, there's the front of the terraces would be for use. The rear would not be for use and be restricted on these 40 units from being used.
What percentage of the roof is actually being used?
Well, that's a good question. I have another example. A16, this is a roof terrace exhibit.
I do want to get This is the A16. But what I said was I didn't mark A15, but Aaron did.
A16 is dated August 27, 2019. It's entitled Roof Terrace Exhibit, again prepared under my direction and control. This basically shows two of the buildings and the areas of the terrace that would be permitted to be used. Being that it's the front portion of the building, the rear creates a functional buffer. It provides sightline, noise, and light buffering to Carriage Drive, and that works both ways.
What type of parapet is on the rear?
And we have the architect to go through all the details of it. I just wanted to introduce where on the site we're proposing this limitation, and just from a plan view, what it would typically look like. If I've done that, then
Is that on just the half roof deck, is only on these units or on all units?
only on these 40 units.
But the limitation, let the architects discuss it. The limitation to use, not to use the rear is proposed for these units that are affecting the Carriage Lane residents, because otherwise it would be back to the building which is suitable. So,
With these units though, again, some of them may not have the roof if they are not willing to shut off a $20,000, $30,000.
it's all correct.
Still an option, it's still an option.
Yes.
Okay.
So just to be clear, the half roof deck, half roof terrace is only on the units identified on E15.
The restriction that it's in the front of the building on those units affects.
So it's half and on the front, or whatever the percentage is.
It's close to half.
And the other units would not be so restricted.
Correct.
They can be-
We expect them to be, they'll be in the rear.
Let me make sure I understand. Half, in the same roughly half of the roof?
Yes. Well, can we put on have the architects give you the exact? I think we can clear it up easily. But what we are basically proposing is that to eliminate the issue that came up at the last meeting, where the neighbors were concerned about being able to see into their yards, we limit the rear not to be the roof, and the front would be the deck. And we have, Jim, did you prepare the sightline exhibit, or did Jeremy?
Jeremy has the
John, we have both. So, you have a witness, if you're done with Mr. Kennedy.
Well, that's why I was asking that
Well,
question.
Mr. Kennedy talked about his exhibits, I think it was fair to have clear. So, from the last presentation, it was unclear that these roof decks only covered half of the roof surface. That was not clear, at least to me, other than the board members.
No, this is
That was
new.
not
This is
clear.
new.
So if the roof decks are going to cover just roughly half of the roof surface,
52%.
52%, and they're going to be in the rear, except in the row along Carriage, which is going to be in the front, if somebody so chooses.
That is correct.
So that's all I was asking for. They're only half, or 52%, because that's where the structure comes up. The stairs come up, but the architect come up.
Yes. Do you have any other exhibits? I have plenty, but I don't think we're going to use them.
And then,
Let's make sure here. So that should be that.
Okay.
Original entire, before A16, originally the entire roof area could have been terrace.
Correct.
Forget the carriage lane, 40 units. The rest of the development, how big can that roof terrace be?
Approximately 52%, but in the rear.
Okay, so it's still the same, if you will, A15 cut in half, just a matter of being in the front or the back.
That's correct.
Do you know whether they will be at the option of the homeowner? But
Is it-
I have a front one, you have a back one next to me?
No.
No, if I may,
Go ahead.
it's my understanding that along Carriage Lane, under our homeowner association rules, which we did submit to you, those are restricted from using the rear by the homeowner association rules. And we only proposed that those would be in the front. As Mr. Gorman said, the remainder we expect to be in the rear because you have buildings backing up to buildings and they'd be looking into their, into their own yard areas.
And there is a wall that prevents them from using the rear of the carriage
And
lane.
it's a different surface. Where the deck is, and again, I can tell you, the surface on the deck is different than roofing material. So it would be deck, parapet, roofing material. And rules and regulations that we propose restrict anyone from going on there other than a authorized service person for a leak or something that might
Has
happen.
any.
Normal stuff, yeah.
on it.
But no, they can't be used by anyone other than, it has to be installed either by, under our rules, either by the developer or a licensed contractor with a permit.
Now that we switched to essentially half of the roof.
Yeah, but it was always intended to be the half.
It was.
Yes, but we, as Mr. Gordon said, we apparently didn't make that clear.
Oh, okay. I thought initially it was the full roof.
What we were trying to do was to address Mr. Rathjen's comments about he didn't want to have people looking
Right.
up or down. And after we wrestled with it a little bit, we thought that it would be better than the parapet would be to move them to this, and so that limited to that area.
And maybe this is for the architect, I'm not sure. Do we have the square footage of the dimensions of 52% of the roof?
Well, I don't have it, but some.
The architect, I'm sure
and
does,
we
right?
can-
Okay, then
Yes, we do. I'm getting high sign signals that we have that.
Can we back up a minute? I want to go back to what you just said. If a person buys a unit, do they have the option on where they want to put this?
Now, if you're along Carriage Lane,
No, forget about Carriage Lane.
no.
They don't have the option.
No one does. If you buy Carriage Lane, you have no choice. If you buy
Okay,
anywhere else,
now I'm going to back up again.
It's either,
Not Carriage Lane, okay? All the other units, do you have the option?
they'll be in the rear.
they don't have options. It's in their-
Okay, because that's not what I said earlier. You said most people are going to want
That
it.
was misstated,
Okay. They will be in the rear, and everything, it'll be consistent.
yes. We originally expected all of them to be in the rear until the issue came up in the Carriage Lane. And in response to that, we had a possible solution of the parapet, but thought that this would be a little better for everyone. This is already for the parapet, to me, anyway.
Our accuracy is Carriage Drive.
What about on Kings Highway? With A15? Now, I know that the Dorian Lane, overlooking Carriage Lane, is up on raised 10-foot elevation plus the house. On Carriage Lane, are those roof units going to be on the Carriage Lane side? And what is the look, if you will?
Okay, so the Carriage Drive, I want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Are you talking about the end units closest to Carriage Drive? From Kings Highway?
Kings Highway,
Yes, Kings Highway. On the left-hand side.
based on what you said, all of those roof decks will be facing Kings Highway.
Will be in the rear of the building. Correct.
And what is the effect on, what's the view, A, from the people in those units? And what's the view from across the street at Kings Highway and/or Kings Highway?
Okay. So this is the area that we do have that is sunk down from the level of Kings Highway. You'll recall that this is the area that we have a variance for the placement of our retaining walls. We have a two-tier retaining wall system that drops the elevation below Kings Highway, the grading elevation. So that would basically be in line with many of the trees that are located along Kings Highway. So it would be a filtered view of trees, of tree tops, and the massing. We have the scenic buffer, the 50-foot scenic corridor buffer along Kings Highway. We have two terrace walls that drop our elevation down, and then the building goes up from that lower elevation.
And all of that means if I'm sitting on that terrace, am I at the level of Kings Highway?
No, you're not at the level,
I'm
you're above the level.
I'm above the level of Kings Highway.
Yes.
But you're expected to be buffered by existing vegetation.
And also the parapet. There's still a parapet wall. Of course, there's a parapet wall that runs along the entire perimeter of whether it's the roof terrace in the rear, the roof terrace in the front. Of course, we need a parapet because we'll have occupancy. So we have a parapet wall and the vegetation and the topography change that buffers those needs.
So I'm sure to the chairman's last comment, if you're on one of those roof terraces along Kings Highway,
Yes.
how high above Kings Highway are you?
I would have to figure that out. I can do some math, and maybe I can do that by the next experts.
Yeah, I'd like to understand basically how many stories you're sitting is the bottom of the building.
I can give you an estimate of the stories, but I can actually give you calculate something.
Is the top part 35 feet from the base of the building?
That's a better question for the architect. I'll go through all the building heights and how the roof and rainbows and parapet is.
Has there been any consideration for the parapet making it 6 feet instead of 4? For a number of reasons in my head, but any consideration there?
Well, we did. We looked at keeping that screen 6 feet with the terraces all the same throughout the community. And we felt that this was a better option to move the terraces to the front in lieu of creating that wall for the people on the outer terrace.
I guess my question is the consideration for all the units having a 6-foot wall instead of 4.
Well, I guess the architect can kind of discuss that a little bit.
All right.
That was an option that we looked at, but this seemed to be far superior.
For what reason, if I can ask?
For the openness, I guess you kind of open the outdoor terrace to see hard horizons and open space, and to block one of it with a 6-foot wall. That's my understanding of one of the detriments to that.
I don't know if you'd be blocking it with a 6-foot wall. In my head, I'm trying to think of what that would do. And-
The architect's study.
Yeah,
so-
okay, I'll wait for the architect.
Study.
You done with Mr. Kendrick?
I am.
Anyone else on the board for Jim? Okay. Anyone from the public? Questions for Mr. Kennedy on what he has testified to this evening? Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Castning. I'm the Executive Director of the Mountain Conservation Foundation, whose offices are located at 628 Middletown Lincroft Road in the Lincroft section of Middletown.
Are you speaking for the association or
Yes.
individual?
Yes, association.
Association.
K-A-S as in Sam, T-N-I-N-G. Before I ask the question, I'm a simple kind of guy, and I'm not sure I understand who owns what parcel here, so if I could
The
ask.
entire parcel is owned by Mountain Hill as of now.
As of now, okay. Thank you for that. So, the subdivision that's going to create this 20 or 15 acre lot, depending on what you choose to do, what variant, whether you could grant the variance or not, is proposed to be partly open space and partly developable land. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you're proposing to put a conservation easement with public access on the conserved portion of that property.
correct.
And conservation easement would be held by the township.
That's my understanding, yes.
And the other piece, the remainder that's not under conservation easement, both pieces are owned by Mountain Hill, correct? But the easement is held by the township, is that correct?
It sounds right, but it sounds legal
Two
too.
pieces, right?
So the upland area, or that
I'm
development,
separating the 15 acre lot between upland and
Yes.
wetlands and the.
Is it going to be one lot, it would remain one lot? Or it's
It's
just
one lot today, well, it's not today because it's a.
Right, okay. And
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jim, why don't you put up?
right, and this white area is the area that's the upland?
Correct.
The rest of it will have a conservation easement imposed on it?
and access, correct.
And access, okay. And the conservation easement will be held by the township, right?
That's my understanding.
When it comes to the development of the unencumbered area, will the encumbered area be used for the density calculation of the unencumbered area?
So in this zone, in this redevelopment zone, density calculation is done on a tract-wide basis, not on a lot-to-lot basis. So the density calculation is already done. It already encompasses the entirety of the tract. So whether this is subdivided into one 15-acre lot, or 3 5-acre lots, or whatever, 15 1-acre lots, the density is already part of the underlying tract. It's already been calculated, and the subdivision doesn't change.
And so it's, the density is based on the full 20 acres, is what you're saying?
No, the full redevelopment area, including village 35, which is referred to as the commercial tract, the full residential tract, as well as lot area.
Thank you for answering that. For the record, I am also on the Open Space Council in Middletown, part of the voice. And as such, I wanted to propose that the Open Space Council review the proposed easement before it's finalized and filed. I would respectfully request that the board consider that. I think you've answered my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Yes, lean forward, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sandra Jones, Middletown.
Well, I think it's one.
Oh, sorry, Sandra Jones, Middletown. What, do you need anything? Okay. Yes. Okay, I have a question about the track as well. Could you put the picture up with the 20 acre? So I might just not be understanding, but you keep saying that the whole tract has the open space calculated and that the lot has nothing to do, lot 81 has nothing to do with it. But if lot 81 gets sold, are you saying that at that time, there's no future recalculation of the density? I mean, I put in a pool and had to deal with like the wetlands in my yard. So is that what you're saying? Is that what?
Well, I want to be very specific in answering the question. So the density for the redevelopment zone, which is different than a zone R1 or R10, they created this redevelopment zone for for the commercial tract, Village 35, and for the residential tract. When that was done, the density was foreseen for the whole tract, not for a lot here or a lot there. So this has limitations on density, on the number of units, on a tract-wide basis, not on a lot-by-lot basis. So it's capped at 400 residential units for the entire tract, not just for this lot or for that lot or any lot. It's for that whole development tract. So they took jurisdiction and basically created a zone for a tract, not for individual lots.
And I got that, but I'm saying now this, you're saying is potentially going to be owned by a different group. Because this is going, this right now retained by the seller. And they could sell it to someone else in the future. So that's what I'm asking about. When they go to sell it, and now it's owned by somebody else, is it still tied to this decision that this group has made about the tract?
Yes.
Forever?
Yes. Unless there's some,
Okay.
you know,
And
some-
it does feel, and I think somebody else said that, it does feel like we're losing open space, even though you keep saying that we're not. And it also kind of makes no sense that somebody that wants to own a lot would be giving up 5 acres, even if it is open space. It's like, it makes no sense, if you ask anybody, would you give up 5 acres? You're like, why on earth would I give up 5 acres? I don't care what you're going to do with it in the future. It just doesn't make logical sense to me anyway.
I'm sorry, can we just clarify for that? The existing seller, the existing owner is not giving up the acreage, right? They're trying to retain the acreage. Is that correct?
this was something negotiated 5 years
No,
ago.
I understand, but I
No,
just...
I thought you were doing a variance that instead of a 15-acre,
Right. Oh, I see what you mean. I take
you're going to
that.
have 15.
Right.
So that means you're not going to have 5.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
The 5 is
that's- yeah.
not developing. That
But it's
differential.
still worth something.
Jim, neither is the vast
All of
majority of
it,
15,
except for
about
that.
12 acres. It's not.
Yes.
Which I thought your point about that you could fit that whole 22 house and unit in there. And I guess this isn't time for us to talk about the October traffic study, but I'd love to do that at some point.
I'm sorry, yes. Raise hand right here. Yes, you.
Middletown resident. I have 2 questions.
Name is
Peter C. Thompson, Middletown, New Jersey. I did. Okay, 2 days. Gentleman in the blue shirt here was talking, my question is in reference to the gentleman saying, oh, the open space would be terrific for the 320 market rate townhomes and multifamily, even those for sale product. The open space for this new proposal will be terrific. But my question number 1 is that to the extent that that project that we're going to talk about tonight is approved? I mean, you were suggesting as though that's already approved and this is going to be a terrific 5 or 10 or 15 acres of open space for that future development.
I was suggesting that if that open space,
Oh,
if that open space could be used with trails, parks, that's what I would.
Okay.
So, and that would be a good neighbor for this new development, to actually keep that open as a park, or as a, they have one walking track around the basin, but I wanted to get a trail through there, so that could be used as a park, because I still am worried about the residents, where are they gonna go?
Yeah, I was just curious, you mean if it's approved, the other?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And the second question is, if that project I just referred to is not approved, does this hinge on, or is this contingent upon that other project being approved, or has nothing to do with this?
They're separate.
Got it. Okay, that's all I had.
Hi, I'm Susan Penrose, 12 Clapton Court, Middletown, which is in King's Landing. And my question is, the units... Raise your right hand, please. Raise your right hand.
You gotta back up, and we'll pull it out, hold it in there.
The units that are facing Kings Highway East, that would also then be overlooking Kings Landing, what's the elevation on those decks that I understand would be on the rear of those buildings? Would they be able to see into the units in Kings Landing that also face Kings Highway East?
So the elevations, the architect should probably go over that, but between the landscaping that is along Kings Highway on the south side of the street as well as the north side of the street, that separation is pretty great. So would there be a filtered view? Yes, probably.
Because I would have a concern for my residents at Kings Landing that the people in these new buildings could be able to potentially see into the backyards, just like with Carriage Lane. Could the decks on those units also be put on the front so that there isn't a chance that the privacy in Kings Landing would be, taken care of?
And I'm just trying to think, as you drive Kings Highway, there really isn't a view into the back of your units.
You
Yeah.
can see.
It's filtered.
There's filter, right. But if you are up high enough, and it's winter, and there's absolutely no leaves on the trees, and somebody decides on their deck in the back that they're going to sit there, they could most likely see into Kings Landing. It would be the same issue that you would be having on Carriage Drive. And if you would consider putting on those units the decks in the front so that we wouldn't have that issue, that would be my request. Protect my residents in Kings Landing.
That's not something I can answer yes or no to. It's a little bit different because of the elevation change and the road in between you, and the amount of vegetation that separates you.
As long as it's summer, and if there's leaves on the trees, that's great. But as soon as it becomes winter, there would be probably the same issues that Carriage Drive would have that my residents in Kings Landing would have. So, that's my request. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Tricia McGuire, 49 Foxwood Run. I do. I have two questions. My first is, I believe it was Ms. Brown was asking about the preservation of the tract being bound to the redevelopment laws of zoning and site plan. Is that correct?
The conservation of the tract is hinged upon us, or the applicant, filing a conservation easement.
Okay.
That's the legal documentation that is.
I am curious about, I did hear you say unless, and then there was some commotion and conversation. I'm curious if you could finish the thought about unless.
If it's not approved, there wouldn't be a mechanism to file a conservation easement, which is supposedly what my unless would have been.
Not approved, and
Can you explain what nothing means? Does that mean it's not
It's not
preserved?
approved, the project doesn't get approved.
Oh, the overall project.
Right,
Oh,
right.
thank you for explaining.
Yeah, if there's no site plan approval, then there's no rationale behind filing conservation easements and access easements.
Okay, so the unless was in case it wasn't approved. Thanks for clarifying that. And then my second question is, I heard Mr. Casting ask a question about the possibility of involving the open space board that we have in Middletown in the review process of that, but I didn't hear a response from the planning board as to whether or not that is a possibility before you make your decisions.
No, what Mr. Casting said is we have an open space committee, which includes Mr. Casting and living members such as myself. What he's requesting is that the conservation easement be reviewed by the open space committee, which includes members such as township administrator and myself. And we would, so it's up to the board if they want us to review it, we would review it. But there's no open space board.
Okay.
It's a committee, we meet, we'll probably meet in a few weeks. This month we meet on and often. So what he's requesting is that they review the conservation easement. Is that correct, Mr. Casning?
That's correct, and provide comments if necessary.
Okay.
I have an objection to that. We have hornets used in the town, that's what we expected to be subject to, not to a review by an outside agency. We expect to be regulated as others in Middletown are in terms of the terms and conditions of those easements. That authority starts and ends at the municipality. I would suggest it can't be delegated to some committee.
Sure, I don't hear the request as a delegation, I hear it as a request for township residents and people who are appointed to this committee to have some input as to what happens in their community. So maybe I'm hearing it differently, but that's
That's a good point, and the process that would be appropriate is to discuss it with the township committee, explain what you want to see in those kind of conditions, and then make them applicable not just to us or at someone's whim, but across to everyone, because we're entitled to equal protection under these rules. You just can't gerrymander rules for one application.
I certainly respect your needs to be respected in the process, so you're saying that for the residents to be respected, we should take it to the township committee, all the while before you guys make decisions?
Well, no, you're at the wrong stage. That would be done at the time of the adoption of the ordinance. You have to petition an amendment to the ordinance.
Okay. So I'm wondering if I could get an answer from the planning board, though I still don't hear whether or not you're willing to wait and hear some comments from that committee.
Well, I believe Mr. Junko is correct, and even Sam here, we can't delegate that to a committee. So,
You're not delegating the decision, you're delegating a review.
It's reviewed by the township, period, end. And that's probably through the municipal attorney. The township attorney's office will review it. That's it. I mean,
Just like we have in every other easement.
The township committee would have the option of changing it or modifying it. These are pretty routine things. We're not reinventing the wheel with conservation.
This is not a routine thing.
Well, they are.
Yeah, no, it's not.
you're not getting picked up all the way up.
I didn't thought just express on behalf of what I hear behind me is a continued frustration that process seems to be designed to eliminate comments and input from the township residents, the stakeholders that are very interested in making sure that decisions are made in their best interest. And so I'm expressing that on their behalf. Thank you.
Yes,
Good job.
36 First Drive, Manning, M-A-N-N-I-N-G, 36 First Drive. Yes. Quick question for you. You mentioned the entire tract for the open space. In the redevelopment plan, unless I'm mistaken, they split it up so the commercial has the 25% and the residential has the 35%. Is that correct?
Correct.
So in terms of this particular portion of property, does it still meet the 35%?
Yes, because it's measured on a tract-by basis. The subdivision doesn't change that map.
Okay, so no matter what happens with that, you're telling me?
Correct.
At the pleasure of the chair. Another bite at the apple.
and you want to add to what you brought up before?
It's a procedural question.
Procedural question? Come on up here.
I remain sworn, correct?
Yes. And just re-identify yourself.
Bill Cassidy, Executive Director of the Mountains Conservation Foundation. So, again, I plead ignorance. Pardon me. Who is the applicant this evening?
Toll Brothers, or their subsidiary.
Okay. Are you, you've been delegated the authority by Mountain Hill to represent them this evening?
They're not representing. They've signed off on the plan.
That's right, and they presented to the application in accordance with the municipal land use law in section 11.
So, that's...
And by the way, it's total NJ, Roman
The answer is
numeral
yes.
12, LP.
Yeah.
They've signed off on the application.
Yes, they have.
Okay. So they're signing off on the application, the subdivision, the professional testimony here as well.
No.
What are they signing off?
On the application, they're not authorized, they're not there, now, these are not witnesses for now, they're witnesses for toll roads. So they're saying they're signing off on the presentation? No, they signed off on the application.
But they're representing the interests this evening of Mountain Health.
No, they're not, they're representing toll workers, they're here representing toll workers. So John Gomes, Mr. Kennedy, whoever else picked it up, representing toll workers.
Thank you for the clarification.
That's good, Mark.
Laura Patton, 23 Carriage Drive. Yeah. My first question is if the variance, you don't believe you have to give us.
You closer, get a little closer.
My question is with the variance, if you don't get the 15 and you have to give the 20, and it shows here, would the setback then change? Because it's a 75-foot setback from my property line on Carriage Drive to where the units are built. So if for whatever reason, this is how it gets broken up, it doesn't look like on this plan that that setback changes. Would that shift at all?
It's still from the tract boundary, so that subdivision again doesn't change the underlying development.
And then questions on the roof deck, and perhaps this is for the architect, I'm not sure, because the line was a little blurred. I guess my first question is why do they have to be offered along the units of Carriage Drive anyway, since it seems to be an optional thing, and I realize some people might not take the option. Why can't you just say for the 40 units, you just can't have them on that?
That's not a question for just.
Okay, that's fine. And this also might not be, and I apologize if it's not, but what will stop the owners from building out on these roof decks after closing?
The homeowners association regulations, building codes, building permitting, and the process that would be involved requires a plan to be developed, go to the homeowners association. If they gain approval there, then they can apply to the municipality for permits. However, I think you'll hear testimony from the architect that if it isn't built at the time, the roof structure is such that it would be very difficult and expensive to add.
But for a cost, it could possibly be added, and
I can't hear you.
if possible, and with the right amount of money, it could possibly be added, or is that something I should ask?
Not to the rear.
What's that?
I think you should refer to the rear. Could the rear outdoor terrace?
No, not on Carriage Drive. That's a restriction under the homeowners association.
Unless I misunderstood the
Okay.
question. I thought
No,
that
If
that's-
someone buys that unit, assuming you're approved, if someone buys that unit for one that are now outlined in red, they are signing an agreement that if they choose the option, they can only put it on the front of the house. If that offended them, they have 270 or 215 other choices.
Okay. And then you mentioned a parapet wall that goes around the entire perimeter of the space. What is the height of that?
The architect.
That's an architect question. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Oli DiCenzo, that's D-I, capital C-E-N-S-O. I live at 59 Kings Highway. And I am, absolutely, I do. I'm really confused. So we've been looking at the 118-acre tract. Part of it we've been looking at as residential, the other part commercial. And looking at the residential part, my assumption was, in looking at the whole wetlands area, was that that was part of the residential proposal. Am I now understanding that we are looking at the commercial property, residential property, and Mountain Hill property all together in that 118 acres, 118 acres?
So this lot, the 15-acre lot, is still in the residential tract. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We didn't propose development of that tract initially, and there's no development of that tract currently proposed. The application is to subdivide that 15-acre block off and allow it to be retained by Mountain Hill, the current property.
So currently, that 15 acres is now in the toll tract?
That's correct.
Okay, so by separating that out from the toll tract, that means that with the redevelopment plan, I believe that there were 400 units, residential units allowed, and now we're only doing 350 residential units, which means that there's another 50 residential units that can go on that 15 acres if it's subdivided out, correct? Am I missing something?
I mean, if they can put 50 units on that 3 acres, I don't...
But you understand my point. My point is, then what happens to our open space?
Open space doesn't change.
But we keep talking about this tract, we've been looking at this tract with this, as this whole open space, and now we're saying we want to subdivide it out. I don't
The tract required 30% overall open space, which was provided by NRD 25% and Toll Brothers 35%, and those we total for the entire tract. Open space will not change. What's shown on this plan is the open space that will be, if the project is approved, the open space that will be on this redevelopment area.
So it's this roughly 3-acre area flat that is not part of the open space, has never been part of the open space, and is functionally the only area of that 15-acre tract that could have development opportunity.
So you're saying this 15 acres is not developable?
No, I'm saying the only portion of the 15-acre tract that is developable is this area that is not hatched, that's open to the environment, about 3 acres. Because of the wetlands buffer and the open space easement, that'll be filed if this is approved.
I'm still confused. Thank you.
Insurance.
Sure, but 29 Carriage Drive. I do. Correct. Just for the record, it is Carriage Drive, not Carriage Lane, so we don't confuse it with the other carriages in the township. If you did the 20 acres, that strip that runs behind the townhouses, who controls that with the, does it go right up against the townhouses?
It is part of the open space that's dedicated to, that would be conserved. It would be under the ownership of Mountain Hill, and it would be ultimately under the control, subject to the access easements and conservation easements, subject to Mountain Hill. That was my point. We could create the area, but it certainly makes no sense to create a regularly shaped square that doesn't have any issue of control or operation regarding the homeowners association.
So if the residents came out their back door, they would be on Mountain Hill property.
But within an access easement. Right, Mountain Hill's property, but they have a right to access it through access easement.
If this property was maintained by Mountain Hill, originally, all of this property would be, Toll Brothers or the association control and have control over, the rules of how it was used and so forth. If it's separated by a different owner, then it seems like you have different rules and the access to it and how it's used could be changed.
Well, the access and use will be pursuant to the easement and the conservation easement that's filed. I agree with you. I think it's a much better idea to request the variance and have a 15-acre square here that has really nothing to do with the residential development. It's only the option, the conforming plan, that creates that 20-acre parcel that would have those legs coming up closer to the, and that would be associated with the residential tract. So I agree. I think it's a better plan to have 53, proposed 53 or 4, existing lot 81, set aside and conserve, 12 acres of it conserved, and roughly 3 acres of it usable for whatever future use they decide.
When you came in with the original plan, that was all part of this, the ownership and the rules of the association that apply to that property. 15 or 20 acres.
It was all part of the tract.
Part of the tract, but once people start to live, there are homeowners rules and things of that nature. Wouldn't those apply? If it applies to the land, you know, where the townhouses are, wouldn't it also apply to that property?
So that property really would be guided by the
Easement applied to the open space.
Wouldn't there be homeowners association rules to, you know, what you do with any part of the property?
We're still bound by this conservation easement and access easement that's filed in all the open space. So are there HOA rules? Of course. But we're still bound, that doesn't give you any relief from the conservation easement requirements and the access easement.
Mountain Hill property have different uses than in the township, or townhouse area?
No, it's still under the redevelopment zone, and it's still subject to the zoning that's in place for the entirety of the tract. It's in the PD zone and the redevelopment zone.
Just keep thinking about the usage, things like that. People from townhouses can go over on that property, do whatever recreation thing they want.
So under the access easement, and I'm not familiar with the details of it,
Well, there's limitations of what you can do in wetlands. You can't just go in there. There's all those regulations. There are regulations that are applicable to wetlands and to open space. They are applicable, enforced by DEP on wetlands. Exclusive jurisdiction is the NJDEP for wetlands, and what can be done or used there, and it's very limited. The open space requirements of the municipality have some other requirements, but basically, nothing should be built there that isn't approved by this board or included in the plan. So the concept is it remains available for access, for walking, but not necessarily for any type of development in the open space, restricted area, or the wetlands restricted area.
Mountain Hill retains ownership of that. Could they put up a fence?
Well, the easements that send those rights from the property owner to the municipality do not change once they're set and recorded. And that would be a condition. If the board approves this application, it's a condition of approval. We have to, if you think of it as layers, the next layer that goes on are all the conservation easements. The next layer after that are sewer, water, roadway easements. And then after that is the construction.
I understand. They put up a fence.
Just, first, you can't touch wetlands. Second, you can't touch open space. Third, you use the sewer to deliver sewer lines, use the water easements to deliver water, use the highway easements to deliver roadway. Then, after that comes the whole construction.
John, I have a question. I think we're confusing different issues in the public. Open space doesn't mean that the public has access.
No,
Conservation easement doesn't mean that the public has access.
no, it is access for the residents.
It's the residents of the townhome association will have access to all the areas within the open space easement. Correct. But not the public.
Correct.
Well, I'm just saying, I just want to clarify, we don't want to, we've been mixing up terms and,
Yeah.
or at least maybe to the public, but, so this isn't a park. This is going to be open space available to the residents of.
It's to benefit the residents and the affordable residents also.
But the residential occupants, the residential occupants through the open space, will have access to the property. Just like somebody's backyard.
It's like somebody's backyard.
Is there an access easement or conservation easement on the property currently?
There are no easements, well, I shouldn't say there are no easements. There are no easements that interfere with the development. There are easements along the highway for the current utilities and the access and so forth.
Okay, and is there like an access easement for people today, or you can have
No, it's
people
private
car
property.
driving?
Now I understand your question. It's private property.
Okay, so anybody's like saying it's a park is
Correct.
And for clarity, it's probably super obvious here, but the homeowners association can in no way override any of these easements and do something that's contradictory.
No, they're subject to them just like anyone else. Homeowners Association is treated as if it was a citizen, like a corporation, like an individual. They're subject to the same rules. And they acknowledge that. I mean, they acknowledge that. It's not, it's part of our whole proposal is that's all incorporated together.
When you originally came in,
You've got to speak up.
when they originally came in, now the toll could have proposed, or even later, put trails in there, or done something according to these rules.
There are trails that are set around the basin, and there's picnic areas, and I think there's, wherever the trails were laid out, they've already been presented to the board. So the answer is yes.
Toll could have come in later, or the homeowners association, and put trails into this 20 acres?
Once
Or
the
or this 15
township,
acres?
once the township conservation easement and the wetlands easements are in place, then you have to get the township committee to agree and the NJDG to agree. And that's not, here, the trails were part of the redevelopment plan and part of the planning for the site and how they were going to be utilized.
Not in this 15 acre.
That was not part of there's no trails.
All right. You could, the homeowners association, could they have proposed trails in there?
The homeowners association is not active today. The homeowners association is to be formed and to be created in accordance with the operating agreements and terms and conditions and the rules and regulations, all of which have been presented to the board and are proposed in response to the questions last week about the use of the...
Let me be clear. They could have proposed trails in there, they didn't do it, they didn't have to. So they didn't have to, no one's making, it's not part of the redevelopment plan or the ordinance.
So the redevelopment plan required, that was done.
On the portion that's being developed as a residential townhouse development.
Not on the,
Not on this. Could they have? I guess they could, they didn't have to. They haven't.
And homeowners association couldn't have created it later?
No, it's not going to be their property.
Yeah, I guess that's the point, it's no longer their property.
No, it's going to be Mountain Hill's property,
Yeah.
or wherever the successor title is, because it will be state-controlled, DEP-controlled wetlands, limits, and buffers, and will be the municipal controlled open space conservation. So, could they? Yeah, yeah, could they? Sure. Is it likely? Not at all.
But then the way it was proposed originally, where they owned the land, they owned all of that land, they could have done something.
there also was a balance. Our clients are not in the business of imposing such obligations, cost and maintenance on the homeowners association that makes these human market movements on it. So there has to be a balance of reasonableness as to what these monthly payments would be for the association.
Is there a difference in the tax assessment of these parcels of property when it's carved off like this?
I don't know.
Well, in terms of
The answer
assessment,
is, that's up to the assessor. The short answer is, sure. Yes, but the assessor will evaluate.
in-line townhouses can be valued differently, depending on their size and dimensions. But that's all under the tax rules, not before this board.
So by Mountain Hill retaining ownership of this property, since the density and everything, the high density in the townhouses was calculated on that, they've essentially sold some of their density. Is it calculations or
I
something?
don't think that anyone would describe it in those terms.
Are we still talking about the decks also, or are we going to have more witnesses on it?
We're just going to have an architect, but Mr. Kennedy testified to the decks. You can ask him questions about what he testified.
He testified that they're existing, is that correct? You testified that that's the proposal, and
Identified that the 40 units along Carriage Drive that would only be rooftop terraces in the front. So that's basically what that's.
okay. And your intention is to have the
That was
architect.
our reaction to try to address the balance between the concerns raised by the residents, by the board, and our client's intention to build in this product. And when the architects and engineers and market people thought about it, they realized that there was a very easy way to protect the view, to protect the residents of Carriage Drive and privacy, and still provide a key deck option to those potential purchasers. And I think they've done an excellent job of doing that, because even a 6-foot person, which I think is a big person, can't get a view from halfway. In fact, fooling around, I asked Mr. Green, I said, how big does somebody have to be? He said, somewhere around 10 and a half feet. Yeah, you look over the parapet from the middle of the building, but that's a big deal for me.
Your intent to have as the architect come out as the next witness, please?
I think so.
Okay. I will reserve my comments.
Good.
Keep her here along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, 1 second, Mark. Is there anyone else from the public?
I'd like to after her, please.
Okay, after. You've already been there twice.
Can I ask a question about drainage? Is that okay?
He didn't testify to that.
Nothing at all?
He didn't testify about it tonight. No, it's not part of his testimony tonight.
Yes. Stand up, yes.
Thank you.
Just identify yourself.
Tricia McGuire, 49 Foxwood Run. When I sat down, I thought I understood what was going on, but after listening to Ole, I just wanted to follow up. The conservation will be placed on the non-developable areas of that tract, is that correct? Or is it going to be on all of the tracts, including what is developed?
The areas, so some of the areas,
But let me just, the 3 acres that you've been referring to, will they remain developable?
yes.
Okay, so here's my question of the board. The township committee has recently indicated that they will no longer be cooperating with the affordable housing agreement with the state. And so now I feel very concerned that the builder can bring a remedy against the town and sue to develop affordable housing, and then the town end up in some lawsuits and have to settle, and housing end up on these 3 acres.
That can't happen.
Can you explain why?
Yes, because I got to talk the other direction. The municipality and our applicant have entered into what's called a redevelopment agreement and exchanged rights and duties, obligations between each other. And that contract is binding and does not permit any application outside of the redevelopment.
And is that contract overable,
Is it what?
Yes,
discoverable?
yes. From under Oprah, yes.
Yes, I just didn't hear you.
That's okay, I'm taller than the microphone. Okay, thank you.
Bill Casting, thank you for the opportunity to request another question be answered. The variance, if granted, is that a OSC variance?
From the underlying PV zone, yes, it is.
Okay.
And no variance from the redevelopment plan.
Okay. So, and what is the percent of property that the variance is being requested for? It's supposed to be 20 acres. You're asking that it be 15 acres, and that's the reason for the variance?
No, well, I put the reasons on the record, that providing a 20-acre tract would be usually, that 20-acre lot would be usually straight shaped, contrary to the design standards of the township. I also testified that there's no engineering purpose to having these appendages to increase the lot area to 20 acres, because it's under it's still conserved, it's wetlands or access easement or conservation easement or wetlands, so there's functionally no difference from an engineering standpoint, whether they remain as is or if they're wrapped into this remainder parcel.
But the difference in acreage is 5 acres?
That's correct.
Okay.
A little less than 5.
All right. So why doesn't that raise the bar to it being a D variance?
A D variance, there's 60 variances.
It's not a variance.
It's not a D variance.
That's a use.
I'm asking him.
And he's not a lawyer, so I'm responding, it's not a D variance.
He's a professional engineer.
I don't argue, it's not a D variance.
Agree with that?
Yes, it's from the
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Okay.
Barbara Marty, 33 Crest Road.
Make a statement.
I didn't hear your last name. Lombardi. The address is 33 Crest. Please raise your hand. I just got a question about the roof, and I don't know if this was answered before or not. Are fires, open fires allowed on the roofs?
I think they're gonna have something to get to all that.
I can tell you that the homeowners regulations restricted to gas, fire, installed by a licensed contractor.
Okay.
And he's, of course, building codes. So the homeowners association is agreeing to restrict any open fires, charcoal, wood, propane. It has to be a natural gas system in that comes from the home. So it'd be like your stove, assuming you have a gas oven and so forth, it's the same kind of thing.
Okay, is there any chance that the fire could be caused by that?
It hasn't, well, the gas fires can be started, of course, but these are all subject to rules and regulations of the fire board and the construction boards and so forth.
Okay. And this might, I don't know if this is for the architect now, is there any chance that, they could change from a flat roof to a peak roof, being that it's causing so much?
That's not being proposed, they're proposing flat roofs throughout the project.
So that's set in stone?
No, it's the application that was made, and that's what our client is prepared to build at that site. If the board-
They're not really very attractive, they look like big box.
Well, our clients are hopeful that there are people who find it attractive. They try to design it to meet everybody's, to be attractive and they're desirable.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, you're off the hook, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you for your attention.
Ladies' room, please.
Certainly. We're over here. Well, is a temperature check? Is a temperature check? We're not getting to your second application.
We understood that.
You got to.
We'd like to hold out hope, but we realize what hope means.
Yes. So we're taking 5 minutes, the ever popular 5-minute break. Anyone here for application 2019-401, Toll Brothers, Bam Hollow Phase 3, we are not getting to that tonight.
No notice required.
Right, but your constant, I think, should say, when is it being carried? So everybody's here tonight.
Now, back to our show.
On Lifetime Fitness, it's not going to get reached tonight, it's pretty clear. The board is going to schedule a special meeting on September 18, 2 weeks from tonight at 6:30. The board will take care of sending out the appropriate notices under the Open Public Meeting Act. So it's not part of the regularly scheduled meetings, we'll have the notice for it. But then this meeting, the hearing tonight will be carried from this evening to September 18 at 6:30. No further publication, no further notice, and the board is carrying it for 2 weeks hence. On a special meeting to be properly advertised under Open Public Meeting Act.
Anybody here for lifestyle?
And for the record, I spoke to Mr. Wiley, he was representing an objector, and he was okay with that date. And I've spoken to the applicant's attorney, his colleague is okay with that date. Are there any other objectors other than the one represented by Mr. Wiley? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recall Jeremy Green and Matthew Markovich for our architects.
They did this tag team restaurant.
Did a tag team restaurant. They were
all sworn last time, you both remain under oath.
Right, so, Mr. Green, at the last meeting, the board expressed concern about the Carriage Drive homeowners and an issue with regard to being able to look out of the proposed terrace into the backyards. And they recommended a parapet solution, and we reconsidered and proposed an alternative. Can you describe what you now propose and why?
I can. Mr. Kennedy covered a lot of ground already, so with the exhibits showing the locations of the proposed front optional terraces on Carriage Drive. So I'm going to get into some additional exhibits, which I believe you have copies of some, and I have some that I'm also going to be distributing. The first exhibit I believe will be A17 is sheet A001, dated August 21st, 2019.
That was previously submitted?
It was.
All right, that's going to be A, can you mark that?
A17.
A17.
Jeremy, this is all other exhibits were prepared by you or others under your direction.
Yes.
Describe to the board.
So what we have here is exactly what was described by Mr. Kennedy. The first, which is labeled 01, on the right-hand side of the paper, she is showing the standard optional roof terrace. So you see a stair, a walk-up stair. You come out onto a roof terrace, which is surrounded by a parapet, which I will talk a little bit more about in a subsequent exhibit. The area that is encompasses this terrace is about 640 square feet. Of the entire 1,224 square feet, it is about 52% of the roof area, not including the unfinished roof and the stair. The second label number 2 is the alternate optional roof terrace, which is at the front of the unit as described along the units along Carriage Drive. It is the same square footage, 640 square feet, is also accessed through a walk-up stair, and has a similar configuration just at the front of the unit.
Jeremy, could you describe to the board the proposed parapet and separation, if you will, between the deck, or the terrace deck, and the rooftop?
Okay. I'm going to refer to the next 2 exhibits, which in your packet is A002, which will be A18, I believe. It is a building section with the standard rear terrace, dated the 21st of August 2019. So in this exhibit, what we have is the standard roof terrace.
Mark that as A18?
It is. It is. Thank you. So I'm holding A17 here to show you approximately, that's the section through a proposed unit with an optional rear terrace, showing you how you would come out from the unit to walk upstairs. There would be a 4-foot high parapet wall separating the unfinished roof in the front, as well as a 4-foot minimum parapet that would go around the entire side and rear, and that is where the optional roof terrace would be located. The next exhibit that I'm going to show you is A003. I'm going to hand out a revised version that you that again is marked. A19. So exhibit A19 is again marked A003 and is being distributed to you. That is a sightline exhibit for the section depicting the front terrace. So again, I will hold exhibit A17 up for the board here, indicating this section being cut through and showing the stair, walk-up stair, and the front terrace, all of the same attributes, physical attributes, the parapet, the unfinished roof, and the finished roof terrace are nearly identical, same square footage, same materials, but it's now oriented towards the front of the unit. So on this exhibit, we have indicated a standard 6-foot tall person, which is approximately me, standing next to a 4-foot parapet wall that's dividing the unfinished roof at the rear from the finished roof terrace at the front. On this, you can also see a sight line. That sight line will be shown a little clearer as to where it's generated from on the next exhibit, but this is essentially the sight line that you would get from 29 Carriage Drive if you were attempting to look at the rear of those homes along Carriage Drive in our new proposed development. And so as you can see with this 4-foot minimum parapet, you would need to be approximately, you're off a little bit, you'd be 9'6" to be able to actually see the top of somebody's head. So in that case, there would be no ability to see anybody from the residence on Carriage Drive for this exhibit. The next exhibit I'm going to show you will mark A20. And that's sheet A003.1. And that's, again, another sightline exhibit dated August 21st, 2019. Wait till you get those, because this is an important exhibit.
This is new, right? This was not submitted previously?
That's correct. And the exhibit you got just beforehand had been revised. Didn't indicate the scale figure. So in this exhibit, this is just a larger cross-section through the entire site, backing to Carriage Drive. Shows what the home approximately be located at 29 Carriage Drive, somebody standing in the rear yard. And again, that's that sight line I just showed you on sheet A19, exhibit A19. What it also shows is a sight line from that 6-foot person, which is the lower angle dotted line, which is labeled sight line from roof deck. As you can see, clearing that 4-foot minimum parapet at the rear gets you a sight line over the top of the homes. So essentially this sight line, normal sight line if you're looking straight ahead, is going to be a horizon type sight line.
So Jeremy, based on your study and these analyses, are you satisfied that restricting the rooftop deck along Carriage Drive to the front achieves the purpose of limiting the ability of Carriage Drive residents to see the activities on the roof deck and likewise the roof deck occupants to see Carriage Drive?
I do. I do.
And that's without any accounting for any of the landscaping trees that don't be in place?
That is correct.
Now, could you describe for the board the difference between the deck, the roof surface itself that is proposed on the terrace deck, and the roof?
Yes. The, I believe it's labeled on their Durdeck. It's just a brand name of a walkable waterproof surface. It's things you would see in like parking garages, airports. It's basically a weatherproof, walkable, non-slip surface that would go over graded plywood, drains, and all that kind of stuff that somebody could walk on. Now, we also would add as an additional option is a pedestal paver, which is a paver that raises it up slightly. Water still drains under it, gives it a nicer finished look. The difference between that and the other portion of the unfinished roof is that's a TPO, thermal polyethylene membrane. That's simply just a roofing material. Is not meant for anything to be on it. It's simply a drainage plane to get the water to a roof collection system. And again, by introducing this parapet wall between those two sections, there's no way to get over there. The only thing you would have are step vents, things like that, that would come out of the roof on that side.
I have a question. I see you have it pitched a little bit for the drainage. Is the drainage through inside pipes or outside pipes?
Yes, it's going to be a drainage collection system, roof system, that are then going to be taken down through the building.
Now, Jeremy, one of the questions that was asked a little while ago had to do with the installation. It's my understanding that toll proposers that can be installed as an option by toll, and that it would be difficult and costly if it wasn't selected at the time of purchase. Could you describe or explain that to the board, please?
Sure. Both these, the standard and the optional, and the alternate roof terrace, front and rear, are going to be options that need to be purchased at the time of the sale of the home. It changes the roof structure a great deal in that, from a civil perspective, looking back at the plan, which is A17, we need to frame out this area for the stair, so you're going to have beams that are running across and that sort of thing. A standard roof that would have none of this and just be a single plane of drainage plane for a roof would be designed much differently. It would just framing members that go side to side with absolutely no accommodation for a stair, structural loading, live loads, occupancy loads, anything like that, that do add to the loading conditions for a habitable occupied area, as opposed to just simply designing for things like ground snow loads and dead loads and live loads as required by code.
So is
It would be, to answer your question, it would be nearly impossible to retrofit something like this. Because there are also loads that are brought down through the entire structure to the foundation that would need to be accounted for, which would not be if you got a standard roof with no roof terrace.
I have a question. I want to go back to the beginning again. So a buyer has the option of having a terrace or not, correct?
That is correct.
So you could basically, let's say we have a 5-cluster building. You could have 2 that have it, 2 that don't, 1 that has it.
Correct.
And you think that aesthetically that's good? I mean, I'm having a hard time visualizing how you're going to mix these up and it's going to look good.
I mean, it's going to be consistent from the perspective of looking at it from the outside. You're going to have that consistent parapet, the consistent top of parapet around the entire building, regardless of whether there's a roof terrace or not. The only difference that you may perceive, and again, is this stair, and that is at the very center, and will always be on an interior, in an interior condition. It would not be on an exterior condition. So you would always be on a party wall. It would not be on an end wall. So again, with the sight line that you see, it's going to be very difficult to even see that. You might see the very tops of it if you're very far away from it.
I have a question. In lighting that area, are you going to use what we call low lights, which may be 4 feet up and just shoot right down? Because if you put a light high on that little cupola, that will be seen. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, well, yes, per code, you will need a light at the door.
Right.
So yes, that light can be installed low. We haven't gotten into the devil in the details there. Most likely it will be a low wattage light that is mounted about at the normal height, at where a carriage light would be on a porch. Any other lighting that would be installed around would be on the inside of the parapet wall and be service mounted.
For the sightline illustrations, you can do the, either one, I guess. The sightline illustrations were done from 29 Carriage Drive, which I understand is like in the middle of that street. As we move further south on Carriage Drive, does the elevation of that embankment height change until it goes taller the further south you go? Is that correct?
I'm going to defer that to Mr. Kennedy.
Then if it gets taller, my next question is what we how does that affect the sightline? Because this is the geometry that said we would never use after high school.
Trying to decipher for one moment.
Would you mind if we continue while they're researching it?
Sure. But I do want to answer that.
I understand. Jeremy, what else, other information do you have from the board concerning the aesthetics of the roof deck, the parapets and so forth?
I don't have anything else to describe at this point.
And from but you're satisfied, however, that the Carriage Drive residents retaining an element of privacy by moving to the front aspect of the building.
Yes, based upon this analysis.
That were,
What's the pitch to the roof?
Quarter inch per foot. To be achieved with a tapered roof installation. As described by Mr. Kennedy just now, because of the fact that our site does move up towards Queens Highway, as does the Carriage Drive, he feels that the relationship between the Carriage Drive homes and the new proposed townhouse would be relatively the same as depicted on 1620.
Mr. Kennedy, will you ratify that statement?
The elevation, it's a consistent relationship as you move up Carriage Drive as it is on our side. So it's about a 10 feet, you know, within plus or minus a few feet, about a 10-foot relationship as you move up the site.
Does that answer your question?
It does, the second part of my question was how does the change, you say it's minimal change, how does that affect the sightline vis-a-vis the, I guess, the lower end of it? But if you're saying it's not a significant change.
Right, so the relationship is the same as you go up that same slope.
No, and then that answers it.
Are you fully satisfied?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'll come up with something else afterwards.
I shouldn't have said it quite like that. Did you have a satisfactory answer?
That answer says that.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I won't be shy about letting you know.
Well, I don't have any other direct questions for Mr. Green or Mr. Markovich.
I have a question. Do you have any drawings that show the elevation drawings other than cutaways section?
Of the facade of the buildings? Sure,
It was presented at the last meeting.
They were introduced at the last meeting, so Ms. Bishop has.
I don't recall what the exhibit numbers were for these, but I'll just describe them, what was presented at the last meeting. Here is the front elevation dated 8/7/19, showing a typical 4-unit building.
The front elevation plan was A7. You said it, okay? Okay.
We talked about that roof material. So we were talking up here just briefly about at least my own experience with relatives in Brooklyn and how they use a roof that's not designed to be used as a deck. And those are the old 110-year-old tar roofs. Walk us through this material. What if somebody decides that they want to take their full-on, what is it called, TPO material roof and make a deck out of it? I would imagine there's some homeowner associations there. That's more of an enforcement thing I want to talk about. Is this material such that, you'll sink in a bit, your shoes will melt, what are we talking about?
No, it's laid over a rigid insulation board and then a protection board, which is basically some sort of, it could be a cementitious board, it could be some sort of synthetic material that protects that, and that's what you would adhere the TPO membrane to. So no, it is, you can walk on it. From a maintenance perspective, you need to be able to, if there's an issue with a clogged roof drain or something, a vent stack, something like that, that would need to be repaired. So certainly it is a roof that can be walked on. It is not meant to be used other than for maintenance purposes, and it's standard use as a drainage material.
Do you have an idea what the weight limit is of that?
It's just based on the dead load, the snow loads. I don't have that off the top of my head. It might be 40 pounds per foot in this
So it
area.
would be reasonable to think that somebody who did not go for the optional purchase, to say, you know what, I'm cooped up in here, I'm gonna go have a cigarette, or I wanna go upstairs and throw ball with my son or daughter or whatever.
They can't get to the roof.
I thought the stairway was still, so if you, oh, okay, so.
There's no stair when there's no optional
If you don't
repairs.
sit- And that doesn't change any structural integrity there, the fact that it obviously does change the structural integrity,
It's a
right?
completely different
And
structural.
you really do have to choose this early on.
Absolutely.
So there's no access for the homeowner.
There is a code required hatch to the roof. Again, the code requires access to the roof, but it would be a hatch, a weatherproof hatch, should somebody ever need to get up there for maintenance purposes. To say that they could never go up there would be a false statement.
I have a question. Since you said you would have gas, someone could have a gas grill, would that be bottled gas, or would you actually have gas pipes up there with the valve?
I believe what was described earlier is that it's a direct connection.
So, and those direct connections would be in a logical place as per where you, if you built, what would be in the logical area? They wouldn't put in, this I'm very important, would they put an extension pipe if they had to? It's quite an important thing for safety reasons.
Like I said, I can't speak to that, it's not my specialty, but anything that would be proposed up there would need to be in conformance with the homeowners association rules and regulations and installed per code.
Why I'm asking you that, because there is a questionable, there's been questionable things on gas pipes which have that, which can be bent into a lot of different areas. Right now, there's
The gas pipe,
there's a recall on that. I'm just wondering for safety consideration, you guys should go into that just to make sure.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's my understanding anything that's exposed to the elements or to potentially getting hit would need to be a hard pipe. That gas tight or whatever material you're describing is very widely used. The yellow piping you see in buildings nowadays is only for concealed and indoor use only. It's not, I don't believe there's a product that's listed for outdoor application that I'm aware of.
What happens when you do have a snowstorm and I want to get on my deck? Where's the snow going that I started to shovel?
Again, that might be regulated by the homeowners association. I don't think people are going to be flinging it over the side. I can't say that it couldn't happen in a severe snow event where people would want to get the snow off their roof, but that's again a maintenance issue, not an issue that I can really
Mr. Chairman, that was in every version of the rules and regulations that we have submitted. Nothing is to be thrown off the roof or disposed of, and it includes the snow and trash and so forth.
Any other questions from the board? Everyone's waiting. Anyone from the public, for the architect, or he or for Mr. Kennedy testify to?
Laura Penn. On drawing A-003.1, it showed, actually, it's that one. So the approximate grade line, what does that show? Does that show 10 feet? Because that doesn't really look like 10 feet. I don't know if the drawing is scaled or not.
No, it's about 10 feet. That's a 6-foot person. This comes over. It's a 10-foot drop, and this, by the time it gets to here, is roughly 10 feet.
Okay. So if later on down the line it goes up 12 or 15 feet, the pile of dirt, that's still going to be the same?
Yes, as Mr. Kennedy described, as if this goes up, this goes up, this goes down, relative to the way that both adjacent properties are graded, proposed and existing.
You mentioned drainage units on the roof. Where do they drain? Do they drain to the back of the unit or to the front of the unit? How does the drainage work on the rooftops? Because my understanding is that in the back of the units, there's going to be a hill going down to line up along Carriage Drive, and there's no drainage solution down there yet, and water typically runs downhill. So where does the drainage go?
Yeah, so they most likely, when it's, when you have you probably have drains out the front and the rear, because you have two roof sections that are basically their own drainage areas. So that will be brought down through the building in a chase and brought out. As far as the area along Carriage Drive, I would defer to Mr. Kennedy again as to how that roof collection system is being conveyed to the stormwater system.
Is that something you could answer now?
Well, this was, I guess, the answer to the last meeting.
Well, maybe it could be answered again, because I don't quite understand how it's going to, where's the water going to go when it drains out the back of the roof?
Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
So my testimony previously was that there was a swale between the two properties. A swale between the two properties, which is sloped towards the detention basin. Toll Brothers actually asked us to look at that, because we know from speaking to the people in Carriage Drive that there was some concern about that utility of the swale. So we've agreed to provide a drainage system, a pipe system with a series of inlets along that swale to enhance drainage between the two properties.
Are there any drawings of the drainage system at all now, or will there be?
There certainly will be for resolution compliance, and it's something that we're agreeing on the record to do.
Was a study done to see how much natural light these buildings are going to block on Carriage Drive?
No.
Is there going to be one? Or is it just?
No. I mean, based on the distance between the buildings and just relative sun angles, I don't think, other than, in the winter when the sun's setting in the west, certainly is going to cause a shadow earlier than one would have been caused previously. But again, the distance is so great, you can see you have to get the sun angle all the way to this, almost this line here, for it to start casting shadow on the back of these homes.
Okay. I understand that they have to choose the roof deck at the time of building.
Correct.
Is it going to be towards the end of this, if you end up having some people that want it, some people that don't? Is there a chance that it's going to be, in a 5-unit roof deck, no roof deck, roof deck, no roof deck? Is that condition ever going to happen?
I'm sure it could.
And if it does happen, and let's say the person in the middle decides later on that they want to build the roof deck, is that, I know it's costly and difficult and nearly impossible to do, but if the units on either side of them have roof decks, how different is their structures because it's all a connected unit? How difficult would that be for the person in the middle that didn't get it initially, but let's say 2 owners later decided, I want it, I see what my neighbors have. We have the hatch, so it's just building out the little staircase and then, that's where I don't understand.
Yeah, the roof structures are completely different.
So even though they're all connected?
That's correct. These units at the party walls are structurally independent from one another. They're separated by a 2-hour firewall separation, which is very technical now, is a core wall, 2-inch liner panel with an airspace separated to the adjacent structure and effectively firewall. So the structure is self-contained within that, for the frame portion, the The only portion of the structure that is shared is at the footing level where all the bearing comes down to the building. So anything that is designed in this layout, front or rear option, has to be designed at the roof level, and all of the gravity loads and all the lateral considerations need to be brought down to the entire building. I can go on record as saying it's a completely different design, and to go back in and retrofit one of these would be technically feasible. I won't say impossible, but technically feasible.
I mean, to preclude that, could we put a condition in saying that roof decks have to be part of the original construction?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It sounds like it's never going to happen, so.
Absolutely.
And my last question, I don't know if this is specifically to you, but if they find that once they start selling these units, that there are, the first 10 people don't want a roof deck, is there any way that they can be positioned along Carriage Drive so that maybe there's a hope that 40 people won't buy a roof deck, and that way Carriage Drive has a little bit more? I mean, at the end of the day, it's
the homeowner's option.
So they'll get to pick wherever they want to be?
Someone could pick any of the sites, and they could either say yes or no.
So there's no one that can make it so that if someone chooses not to get the roof deck, they can say, well, we recommend this area versus another part of the area?
No, it's a choice, it's a buyer's choice. It's like picking, I want a red car, I want a blue car, I want a white car, I want that particular car, I want that particular unit.
And to piggyback on that, the sales are going to be open in different sections of the development based upon the phasing plan and also their sales plan. So I can't tell you when the Carriage Drive adjacent homes will be open for sale, but that will be something that will be determined by the sales team.
But your marketing would have to disclose to the buyer that wants roof deck that, hey, if you buy this one, you can only be in the front.
Correct.
And if they say, well, I really want it in the back, then you say, right,
Then they have to have a different choice.
Correct.
They can't choose Carriage Drive overlook, for lack of a better term.
they need to know upfront before.
That is part of what will, we can put it in any kind of documents, but it also is not the kind of thing that as a marketeer or a salesperson, you want to lead somebody down the wrong path. And there's also, keep in mind, that's in addition to the look-alike separation on the units, so there's a lot of restrictions for the buyers as it is.
Let me interject something. That's very contradictory. Because one minute you're saying the buyers have a choice, they can go wherever they want. Then you're saying, well, but if you only want the deck to be on the backside, you can't buy these.
Well, that was in response, yes, but those are in response to, first of all, the first part I was referencing were the elevations, because there's a rule in the redevelopment plan that you can't have two of the same elevations next to each other, because the township has a planning objective of not having what they call look-alike buildings. So that's a restriction on, if you two guys wanted the same model, you want to be next to each other, Toll would have to say to you, sorry, we can only put one there, and it has to meet the requirements of the ordinance. Second, with regard to the roof deck, we are reacting to the comments that were made by the Carriage Drive homeowners. We prefer not to have to put them that way. We'd like them all to be consistent. But in response to that, in response to the board's concern for those, we came up with this idea to address that issue and limit, and I think effectively, quite effectively, limit the impacts to the Carriage Drive. So there are restrictions that are imposed by others. Township, for example, on the look-alike, that's an ordinance that your board is subject to impose, and we've agreed to that. And likewise, the restriction that we're proposing in order to permit the roof decks to be there and not interfere with the backyard enjoyment of the Carriage Drive folks.
Well, I think her question was very valid. And again, I just feel your answer would, and still is, I still think your answer is contradictory. So I don't understand how you can say you can't have this, but then again, though, if you don't want this, this is where we can put it. That doesn't make any sense.
It seems like it would be up to Toll Brothers to make that decision, and I understand sales.
Yeah, Mr. Markovich?
Right, I can try to respond.
And that's what was previously sworn at the last hearing.
From Toll Brothers. The redevelopment plan permits the roof terraces on every unit, and the roof terraces could potentially be the entire roof. As Mr. Junko indicated earlier, it was our intention to have the roof terrace available as an option at the rear of the unit on all the units. That would certainly be our preference, not to restrict it in any way, but based on the comments that we heard from the community and some of the comments we heard from the board, we're willing to restrict the roof terraces so that for the units that back to Carriage Drive, they're only on the front of the unit. I think it's a solution that works because it still allows the future purchasers to have a roof terrace on their home. We're not telling them they can't have a roof terrace at all, but it does address the concerns regarding privacy by moving the roof terrace to the front of the home. And as Mr. Green showed in the cross-section with the sightlines, an individual who's standing on the roof terrace when it's located in front of the home can be seen from the home on Carriage Drive. So that's the reason that we did it. It's certainly not what we set out to do originally, but based on the feedback that we received, we're offering this as a solution.
I understand the solution, and I appreciate you guys taking into consideration what residents that already live there feel. And, what I don't understand is, at the end of the day, to his point, you can have this, but you can't have this. So if you find that you're going to have 40 people that aren't going to have it, I just don't understand why Toll Brothers can't say, well, you know what? This is where we prefer to have no roof decks along Carriage Drive. It doesn't seem like it's that restrictive or that anything else. And again, it's appreciated that you came up with a solution that does help. However, not having a roof deck at all, of someone looking into my backyard, or, barely looking into my backyard is appreciated, but I just think it wouldn't be that hard to be able to say that. I understand sales, but
You would not have someone looking in your backyard. I just want to make sure that we made that clear. We modified the design to make sure.
You might want to explain the phase and how that works.
Yeah, right. Where's the plan that shows the 40 homes? So Mr. Green alluded to this a bit earlier, but phase one of the community is generally in this section near the clubhouse. So we won't have the entire community under construction or open for sale at one time. So it won't be that we'll be building these homes here and we'll also be building these homes here. This is one phase, further back is one phase, along this side is one phase. So I understand your point, but we won't be selling the community or constructing the community in that way. We'll do it section by section, and all the areas that we're building and selling will be next to each other. So there will probably be a time frame within the life of the community that the only homes that we're selling are the ones that are in the area that you're referring to.
so of your phasing, how many units are going to be sold at a time? Roughly.
Jim, do we have a phasing plan?
Give it as a phasing plan for,
Yes.
like we had today, it looks like a quarter at a time, phase 3 through 6. And at least on Carriage Drive, it's almost exactly a quarter.
Yeah, but it
So
doesn't.
based on those
It isn't
numbers,
quite, it isn't quite
It is,
exact.
but it's not a half.
I was looking up the numbers right now.
so even based on those numbers, if I understand you have to sell it, so let's say you sell 40 homes at once and 10 of them happen to be along Carriage Drive, you have 10 people that don't want a roof deck. Why can't you place them there? Do your best. It's not a guarantee. I understand that, but it's something.
It's just, in my experience, it's not the way that people purchase home. It's not just, well, I want a roof terrace, so I'll be in this location, or I don't want a roof terrace, so I'll be in that location. People do care about the location of the community that they're living in. They might prefer one of the home sites where there are townhomes that back to each other. They might prefer one of the home sites where there are townhomes that don't back to each other. They might have a preference of orientation, if they want a south-facing rear yard or a north-facing rear yard. It's not just a matter of, if I want a roof terrace, then I don't care about the location of the home, I'll just move over there. That's been my experience.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Sure. Just re-identify yourself.
Susan Penrose, 12 Bodmin Court. I live in Kings Landing. I live president of the homeowners association. I'm equally concerned about the sightline from the backs, the units that border Kings Highway that are going to have a sightline because their decks are on the back into Kings Landing. We do have units that are right there, and it might be fine when it's the middle of the summer and the trees are all in bloom. But when it's winter and there's nothing going on with those trees, the sightline there from those units are going to be looking into the backyards of my units that border Kings Highway East. So I'm equally as concerned as those who live on Carriage.
Okay, I believe Mr. Kennedy provided testimony to that effect. I don't have anything else to add.
So you're saying that in that situation, the people that have the decks on the back will definitely be looking into the backyards of those from Kings Landing, and that's okay, but you've solved it for Carriage.
I personally have not done that analysis.
Are you going to be able to do that before, if you were able to do it for Carriage Drive? And those residents, would you not consider doing it for Kings Landing as well?
That concern was a new concern that was brought to our attention this evening, so there was no time to provide an exhibit that studied that.
Kings Highway is there too.
Kings Highway, I mean, these,
You know, you're not, the Carriage Lane is immediately adjoining our site. There's, what was testified to by Mr. Kennedy, there's a setback to the southerly side of Kings Highway East. There's Kings Highway East, and then you set back to your development. It's substantially different. And then we went on to explain the elevations and the existing vegetation there. And in Carriage Lane, we were presenting that there wasn't that vegetation and that it was a lane with direct view. So this is not substantially different, if at all, from the view you had.
it is not substantially different, you're correct. Absolutely, we would have the same problem in Carriage Drive as well.
No, between your development and this, because going across the street.
Right, but you're still going to have people on their back decks that are going to be able to look into the backs of Kings Landing. I would just ask again that if you could do that research for Carriage Drive and figure it out, if you can put decks on the front, why couldn't you consider doing that on the units that are also on Kings Highway East that would then impact Kings Landing?
That's something that Toll Brothers will have to take
So
under
I'm asking
advisement.
if you would do that, because we have a bunch of residents not happy. If you solved it for Carriage Drive, and you don't solve it for Kings Landing.
If I'm directed by Toll Brothers or by the board to do so, a similar analysis can be undertaken, yes.
Excellent. I hope the board would consider that. Thank you.
I noticed with some neighborhoods, Monica Manning, some neighborhoods, people have pools and people don't have pools for safety reasons. I'm a person that doesn't have a pool because when I moved in, I had little kids, plan to have kids. So for me, the concern would be a rooftop deck would be a safety issue possibly, that your kids can have access to it when you're not there. And I know it's an option, you're talking about it as being an option. Also, in addition to that, in the PD zone, I think they discuss different types of housing, which is how you have the multifamily zone and you have this. I understand the look of these industrial looking units and they're a little edgier, younger clientele, I understand that. But if you're going to have a multifamily section, could you not also offer in the back, maybe a question from Mr. Markovich, a little bit different unit along Carriage Drive, no rooftops at all? Do they have outdoor patios as well?
Which section?
These along Carriage Drive, do they also have an outdoor patio at the ground level?
It's an option, yes.
Right, so if they have an outdoor space there, you could possibly eliminate the rooftop decks altogether.
Or they
What
could
I'm
have
saying,
both.
as an option, for that whole strip. Because these people that keep coming up here have single-family homes on half-acre lots. I've mentioned this to Mr. Markovich a few times now, and they were already existing here. So my question to you is, you can offer another row of homes here that are a little bit different. I don't see a problem in offering.
Yeah, as an architect, I need to defer that to.
Different in what way, by not having roof terraces?
Right, and maybe they're one story down, no rooftop, they already have an outdoor patio. Some people don't want all of that, and some of the units you have look like they could be in Asbury Park or Red Bank, or they're not exactly cohesive what's already there. I mean, for that whole neighborhood that's already there, they're already existing. So I'm just wondering, I've asked you a few times, we've discussed it, can you make that row of homes different, so they're not that tall, they don't look, the way they do? And the impact they're going to have on that neighborhood. And I know we discussed, and you said the redevelopment plan allows it.
It does.
Right, I understand that.
Yes.
Do you consider that really appropriate, adjacent to single-family homes with half-acre lots that are already there?
We do. I mean, the redevelopment plan considers it appropriate, and we do as well. Our proposal is for all the homes to be the same basic design, a 3-story townhouse. As far as the roof terrace, I think as we've said before, we've proposed that the design be modified so that, in my opinion, there's no impact at that point once you move the roof terrace to the front of the home.
You could offer a slightly different unit along that road, though, and still make money doing it, correct?
That's not what we proposed.
I understand the redevelopment plan allows it. I'm just wondering if Toll Brothers could, understand that these people keep coming up here because their units on that one road don't exactly go with what's existing there now. That's what I'm saying.
And we only made some modifications to try to address those concerns while still having a viable proposal for our project. So.
What about what Ms. Patton said about, just having that whole road with no rooftop decks at all?
I think that this, that I would just remind you to consider, they're permitted as is under the ordinance that was provided. We have agreed to restrict it in order to address the issue. We considered the comments of the board, considered the comments of the Carriage Drive residents, and came up with the solution that we think not only achieves it, but balances it. It permits that privacy to be retained, and our clients, my clients, the developer, to be able to build their units in a way that would be attractive to, in their view, to the marketplace. I think that they have gone beyond what they're obligated to do in order to address that. And I think that, of course, I'm their advocate, but I would say, I think they did an excellent job of addressing the issue between already the enhanced landscaping that was on the ground level, and now the relocation of this deck to limit the ability to see in or see out. I think that just like everyone else, these future homeowners have some rights there. And we followed the ordinance. The redevelopment plan was well considered, went through numerous debates, and we're agreeing to modify it further.
And keep in mind that the 4-foot parapet wall is part of the design whether the home has the roof terrace or not. So the visual look is the same. We moved the roof terrace to the front so that someone on the roof terrace can't see into the backyard of Carriage Drive. Someone in Carriage Drive can't see someone on the roof terrace. So you're asking for a change that would be imperceptible, in my opinion, from the vantage point of somebody on Carriage Drive.
As long as those units stay designed exactly that way.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Well, and we intentionally modified the design to do that.
Thank you.
That's a question. On the modified design along the Carriage Drive there, I understand your diagram. I actually appreciate the way it looks, the sightlines. That middle parapet where in your other, that one, where you've got that person standing.
Right.
I don't know if this question's for you guys, for the public, but why not make that a 6-foot wall? Right, so it wouldn't change any sightlines on the street. It might look awkward when you're standing up there, but from the street, it would be perfect. You wouldn't know,
yeah,
but it would then block even further, right? I think, if you're looking at the diagram that I'm looking at, it would even block any possibility further of either that person on Carriage looking up, or that person, unless it's person standing in front of that 6-foot wall looking down.
Well, what you just said is what my response was going to be, that making that parapet wall there between the roof terrace and the unfinished portion of the deck taller wouldn't make any difference from down below. You wouldn't be able to see it from this vantage point. It wouldn't allow you to not see this person. You're not going to see this person standing on the roof terrace anyway. But as you said, it would be awkward from the roof terrace, because now you have this taller wall there blocking your view of the horizon and sort of hemming in the space, but it wouldn't make any difference from down
I
below.
don't know if I agree with the horizon. I mean, again, it's weird because I'm 6'5", so I've got a different perspective on things. But I stood on roofs with lots of different views, and I don't think you're really going to have that width on your 300, maybe 40-degree view, and anybody's going to get really upset about that.
Well, I would tell you, 5'5", you can't see over the 6 foot.
But I guess in some sense, I'm advocating for the public because they're looking at that diagram, they're looking at the design of the buildings, they're looking at your concession, which I think, at least I'll speak for myself, I appreciate what you guys have tried to do, and they're not there yet. And I'm just saying, look, maybe that internal wall at 6 feet, you may say, what's the difference? It's still not going to see. Maybe that 6-foot wall will be what kind of gets everybody comfortable.
I think it does detract from the experience of being on the roof deck, and that it doesn't enhance in any way.
Well, that's an eyes wide open thing. I mean, ultimately, that's eyes wide open to the buyer, right? If you want a roof deck, and you're going to get all the dimensions, and say, look, this 8-foot area, whatever the width is there, 16-foot area is going to be blocked.
But we are trying to offer the public something in terms of the buyers who would purchase these homes that's attractive and that's marketable. And I think that would detract from the attractiveness of the option, and it wouldn't serve any purpose. It doesn't in any way change the sight lines, either from the person standing in the backyard looking up at the townhome, or from the person on the roof terrace looking out. It doesn't change that.
You might have missed my point, but that's okay.
Anyone else for the vote?
Hey, come on.
Jerry Bud, at 29 Carriage Drive. These roof type buildings that are built elsewhere.
Before you go on, can anybody in this start here?
What?
No, I can hear you, that's why I'm.
Great, talk to yourself
So
outside.
these buildings have been built elsewhere.
Yes, in numerous locations. I've done projects in Center City, Philadelphia, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. We have projects in the Metro DC area in Virginia and Maryland that have these. We're actually building a project on the opposite side of the Tappan Zee Bridge right now called the Brownstones at John Hudson that offer the roof terraces. So yes, this is a very typical and customary option that we offer to the home buyers.
Are they generally in a, next to a residential area?
They're in all types of different areas, residential, mixed use, commercial. Several of the projects are urban, so you're looking at other tall buildings next to you. It's the experience of having the outdoor space that we find is the selling point for these roof decks, not necessarily where they're located geographically.
I also think your drawing is very telling with your 6-foot person standing on next to the house. Look where they look respect to the bottom of the building. Your building is higher than the person.
Yeah, the building's about 36, 37 feet tall, depending on the grade.
And it looks like the grade for the start of the building is higher than the person.
It is, and I believe Mr. Kennedy testified that the area is raised slightly, about 10 feet or so from Carriage Drive, and consistently slopes as you head to the south.
And with the stairway there, this appears to be a like a four-story building, isn't it?
That is simply just a stair enclosure that does not count as a story under the redevelopment ordinance or under the building code. It's simply roof access, and the penthouse is excluded from the height as defined in the ordinance redevelopment.
So what's the total height from the normal grade level to the top of that stairway?
Again, depending on the exact grading, right now we're showing it relatively flush. It's about 36 feet to the top of the parapet. And you would probably add, I'm guessing, another 5 feet to the top of the stair, so under 40 feet.
Much higher than we are over on.
Yes. And lower than what I believe is allowed under the redevelopment ordinance, which is 45 feet.
What can happen up on this roof deck? It sounds like there's been some homeowners association or document or something given to the board that can be discussed here.
Well, I'll address that. The homeowners association has regulatory powers. One of the conditions of the municipal ordinance is that township officials get to review the proposed rules. Based on the concerns raised here, we prepared them and submitted them to address these concerns, and they've been delivered to the board.
Is the board going to discuss that, or are we going to discuss that, or?
We've identified some of the conditions that affect the impact of the Carriage Drive, but there are also rules that apply throughout the development. So some of the, it's not, we identify permitted uses on the roof deck, which expects reasonably good behavior, like we've identified. We limit alterations and improvements in paragraph 2. In paragraph 3, the homeowners association limits disruptive activity, that's anything that goes on or unreasonable noise or nuisance. Number 4, we require gas-fueled equipment because of the comments we got from the board the last time about a potential issue. They were concerned about charcoal or propane or wood as a fire fuel. There's a provision in the homeowners association, number 5, that says no structural changes, which goes to Mr. Green's comments about buy it at the purchase price or it doesn't help. There's number 6, no expansion of the roof deck is permitted by the homeowners association. Number 7, no enclosures are permitted in the roof deck. Number 9, there's a limitation on the number of people, up to 10 persons in any deck. 10, no unreasonable sounds regulated by the NJPP codes. Number 11, no children under the age of 10 without supervision, no pets or animals without supervision. Insurance, the homeowner has to maintain, the deck has to maintain, under the homeowner association, has to maintain insurance anyway. We set a higher standard. The exterior lighting is limited, as board member Rathman asked, to the overhead stairwell, and then at the top of the parapet, interior. And no signs, displays of any kind can go over the exterior at any time. Those were the rules that we prepared and submitted to the board for their consultants to consider.
How does the homeowners association rules, who implements them? Does Toll Brothers, or do they elect a board, or what do they?
Well, there's a whole procedure under the statute that starts out as the developer operating the homeowners association, and then as the units sell by a percentage, those seats on the board turn over to elected representatives until I think it's at 75%. It's in the statute, I'm not sure. I think it's 75%. The board is compiled with homeowners.
Can those rules be changed? How do you enforce it?
Anything can be changed.
So what's the home? They can change them to.
This association requires 100%. We have 270 people to say it's
So they're starting out to protect things, but they could change to,
Yeah, but we can also listen to the experience of these things, because Mr. Markovich has developed multiple townhouse projects in this fashion.
Right, well, we've submitted rules and regs with regard to the roof decks to the board for review already. Ultimately, they would be incorporated into rules and regs for all different aspects of the homeowners association. Those documents would be submitted to the Department of Community Affairs, the DCA, for approval, and they'd also be reviewed by the township attorney prior to being submitted to the Department of Community Affairs. But what I was going to say, John, is that our expectation was that a couple of these key provisions, for example, the one that came up regarding not being able to add the roof terrace after closing, would not only be part of the HOA rules, but they would also ultimately be conditions in the resolution of approval for the board to vote to approve this project.
Yeah, so then we have two levels of protection, if you will, for the amendment. First, the homeowners all have to agree, and second, you have to go out to the board and then the resolution.
I mean, this is an issue we don't want to have, it is solely in control of the homeowner association, and these are going to be incorporated as a condition of their approval. So I guess I could say they can make them more restrictive, but not less restrictive, or something along those lines. I've got to work on the language on that, but certainly the township and the planning board share your concern.
that they, I think there is something in there, like you said, like the lighting on the decks, you know what I mean?
The board members, particularly the board member that, that requested we consider it. And our clients study it.
And the homeowners association couldn't change that letter, or would they have to come back to the planning board, or what would it?
Well, like you said, they've submitted, they've submitted things that that doesn't have anything to do with the township. For example, the amount of insurance. Township doesn't care, planning board doesn't care. But the height of structure, expansion, no structural change, roof capacity, sound, children and animals, those are things that the township is concerned about, the board would be concerned about. And my intention is that if the board would approve this, that those would be incorporated within the resolution approval. So that whatever the association does, it won't matter, it's going to be a condition of their approval.
Okay.
I mean, exterior lighting, signs, things like that.
But it's not in the...
Well, for example, if they would say no smoking there, like that's their...
There's we did not include the condition because when we came up tonight about the deck only being available at the time.
I've added that. I mean,
So
so the things that pertain to the use and enjoyment of this property that might affect the neighbor, it's going to be included in the planning board approval if that's what's granted.
What about, like if they put a patio in the back of the unit, or there's I think a little, terrace or...
You're going to be able to do on a patio what you're going to do on a patio?
That's regulated by the ordinance. They are permitted to provide decks to the back. I mean, that's anybody, including you. And in fact, they are to go as per the redevelopment plan, but other places in the township don't have those kind of restrictions. These are, I believe, are far more restrictive because they have to adhere to the redevelopment plans.
Yeah, so some of the roof deck things apply to, there's a little terrace or something?
No.
Hardly, no.
If they're going to have a patio, a picnic table, lights, whatever, they're allowed to have, whatever somebody's allowed to have on a ground level, deck or patio.
How about the terrace? Or not, isn't there a balcony?
the rear...
There's a deck off the main living room.
Is there a balcony on the back of the buildings?
Yeah, it's a deck. I would call it a deck off the main living room.
How big is that? I forget. Or I never knew.
On their decks and patios, they're going to be able to do whatever anybody can do on a deck. On the roof, because it's higher, because of the concern of the neighbors, the board took a lot of interest in it. We spent a lot of They've tried to address it, they've proposed rules and regulations, you have to sort through them a little bit, but my recommendation would be that the ones that pertain to the impact on Carriage Drive, those will be incorporated in the condition of approval before there's some.
Okay, thank you very much.
Then there was first. Yes, Ian.
I've lived in New York City for over 25 years. Roof decks are a culture in New York City, as the gentleman was talking about in Brooklyn. Noise is a huge factor, and I don't care about HOA rules. Noise is going to happen, as well as occupancy. If you have an area that's over 600 square feet, there will definitely be more than 10 people utilizing the roof. It just happens. Roof decks are for parties, whether you're an adult, a senior, or you're younger, and it's just the way it is. I'm just kind of curious, and I know that you guys have gone the distance and you've made done all kinds of research, but why not eliminate the roof decks on the Carriage Drive side? I just took out my calculator. And I know that you have your own business model and all that, but if you've got 40 units that you're selling for $600,000, that's $24 million. Then if you have a roof deck that you're adding, that's going to cost $30,000, that's only $1 million, $1.2 million. So why not eliminate them? It would save a lot of headache. It would make existing neighbors happy. They live there. We're only talking about an extra $1 million. Just a thought. Something for the board to consider. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Peter Thompson, once again, Middletown resident, before I'm on the board. Okay, so I don't know where to start.
What's your address?
Yeah, off Chapel Road.
Well, I think the rules require a name and address.
Oh,
It's
specific
going to be
address?
made by missing tree.
Oh, the specific address is what you're asking?
Yes.
5 Beacon Drive. Okay, so I don't know if this is the correct forum for this. It seems like these are in late stages. I appreciate like this gentleman right here is the advocate for, I believe, Toll Brothers. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. I don't know who the advocate is, if there is one, or anybody who is thinking about whether or not to want this development. I'm surprised, frankly, that there aren't maybe 1,000 people here tonight saying no to the overall development, where I keep hearing about the intricacies of the development, parapets, and what is the roof going to look like. The gentleman was thinking the mentioned ago before correctly, that these guys that didn't even know it was Carriage Drive versus Carriage Lane, for God's sakes. But I'm just wondering, like, what's wrong with no development? And I'm wondering if everybody could laugh, you know, it's funny or not, I don't know, when they do this. But, and if anybody doesn't want development, is it because they don't want density? Is it because they don't want traffic? Is it because of a combination thereof? And multiple reasons. And I wonder, had the board considered, I'm sure probably, presumably Johnny can make it, some guys have lived there for 5 years or so. Okay? And I think in years in the past, I think a lot of people just like to come there and then pull the ladder, proverbially, and say, okay, no more development. But I just wonder, like, you know, what's the impetus for development? And probably it's a tax base increases for the betterment of the town, and maybe the lowers the pro rata tax for everybody involved in the town. But I'm just wondering, you know, and frankly, I haven't judged whether or not there should be development yet, or at least express that viewpoint. But I'm wondering, has have they considered, well, maybe not a particular site, maybe like where the Sears went out of business, you know, Eddie Lampert and the big hedge fund, you know, blow up Sears, you turn, drove it in the ground, so there's another possible site. And by the way, I just want to preface, I understand the millions of dollars that go into soft costs for a planning and development project of this size, okay? It's a lot of money. Equity multiples flying around, discounted cash flow, valuation models, cash flows, and how much IRR is going to be made, 5, 10-year hold, all that. I understand it very well, maybe more than lawyers do.
These are for sale units.
So an equity multiple comes into play, sure, with the for sale product, not so much the IRR.
Well, 10-year hold doesn't come on a for sale product.
That's correct, right, but equity multiples do. But the bottom line is Toll Brothers and what's the Community Hill or the Lizzo family, everybody wants to make some money and we want to bring tax-based stuff and all that. But I'm just wondering, you know, and I also wonder, where do those guys live? Like for example, you asked specifically my address and, you know, maybe that was some insight to you that there was a Trinity Hall property, that project or whatever, that was to have been built perhaps, but it was turned down. I wonder where that is. Oh, it was approved. But over there,
Cases we just settled.
The appellate division ruled within the last month, it was approved.
for development of Chapel Hill Road.
Yes.
Okay.
The school, yes.
Right, okay. Use my ears. But I'm always wondering, you know, where do those guys live? And like, they live in like, you know, perhaps, for lack of a better word, more affluent towns like Rumson, you know, if you measure that by median income. Do they want it in their backyard? Why don't they build it in Rumson?
Wait a second. You're into just stuff.
Sure. Oh, they
can't, wait, you can't be into just stuff here. You have to have a question for the architect.
Well, I mentioned, I don't know what the form is, if there is a form or the
At this point in time, it's questions for the witness that's just been informed.
I see. Okay.
At the end of the whole thing, then you can make any comments you want, which is where you are right now.
Right, I understand the time frame,
That's okay, I understand.
Okay. So,
if you got a specific question for this witness, please ask that.
Nothing specifically. I was to use his words over there from earlier tonight, but we can talk about intellectually or conceptually or something. Thank you.
All right. I thought I saw another hand out here at least. There you go. Got this one here in the front again.
Just going back to the HOA rules that you guys talked about, I know you received a copy of them, but I just wanted to kind of bring up one very big concern for me in particular, as well as my neighbors on Carriage Drive. Article or paragraph number 8 is furniture, shade structure, and personal possessions placed on the roof deck shall not be allowed by act or omission to cause damage and or injury from wind or other weather conditions. And I was just hoping that someone would look into maybe having some type of securing of furniture down. This past July, we had a windstorm rip through in about 10 minutes. That brought down 2 trees on my property, 1 tree on my neighbor's property, and if there was any furniture on a roof deck behind my house, that would have ended up in my backyard. I've worked for over 15 years in commercial furniture and in New York City, and I know that there's now laws that any outdoor furniture on a terrace or a roof deck has to be secured down. I don't know if that's something that you guys can just consider because it's dangerous, and at the end of the day, you can say, oh, well, you know, take it down each day, but the reality is people are going to put, you know, furniture out there in May or June. They're not going to take it down every single time that they come into their townhouse. They're going to leave it out there, like most people do with, you know, yard furniture. But leaving it on a roof deck is a problem. I mean, and the day that we had this storm in the morning, it was a nice morning. I brought my son to the park, we played outside, and in a matter of 10 minutes, the storm just ripped through and it was done. And it caused a lot of damage, so if there's a whole bunch of buildings behind me that all have roof decks that have furniture on them, and it happens at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when people are home to run upstairs and grab their furniture.
How are they going to secure it? been in the furniture industry, I've never seen things being secure, outdoor furniture secure. It has to be laid out inside. I've never seen anything locked down in furniture. Can you explain that to me since you're...
Sure, absolutely. 3 years ago, I worked at Google headquarters, and on the 14th and 15th floor, we had roof terraces. So they had outdoor seating picnic tables, for lack of a better word. So what they had to do was we had to use metal fins that went underneath the main structure that came up, which I realize is an extreme condition in terms of residential versus commercial. And basically we had metal fins and we had to attach to each thing, which did require them installing.
I've never seen it in any residential. It's really the person themselves should turn the furniture on the side.
I don't disagree.
I agree with you, it's dangerous, but we live in a world now where people have umbrellas in backyards and people have umbrellas on the beach.
Absolutely.
I understand where you're coming from, and I am sure that they will put something in the resolution for the homeowners organizations saying, please put your furniture on the side if the storm comes up. But I really have never seen anything attached. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, I mean, I can provide images of it actually if you want. But it's something that's of concern to me because if a storm comes through in the middle of the day and someone doesn't, or they forget, or they, what happens to me or my neighbors get hit? I mean, if it hits my house or if I'm in my backyard, it's just a little disturbing because right now, I don't have anything behind me and my neighbor's house isn't tall enough and he doesn't put stuff on the roof, so it's not going to come into my yard or hit anything. So this is obviously changing the landscape of where we are, so that could just be looked at a little bit closer. Anything would be appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, no one?
That's our case, Mr. Chairman.
Was never addressed, was you and Rob's last 2 letters. Have we missed anything, not covered anything, etc.?
We had in our last letter,
We had those conversations. I think we're in a position to comply with all conditions.
even the new comments that I made, also
Just address the issues about the homeowners association rules and roof deck. Engineering.
The date on that, Sam, the 28th?
28th.
Thank you.
So there's a planner's report of August 28th, there's an engineer's report of August 27th.
Yes, and
you will you agree to page 14 and 15, with continuing comments from, I would say, page 14, number 13. It was partially addressed here, and
well, 5B and 5C, conservation easement, the access easement, we agreed to that. On your page 7, the purpose of the lot, we've explained what we can there. On page 8.
The applicants have time to look at these, so is there anything you're not going to?
I think we're in compliance with all.
yeah, I don't think we need to go.
Because we go through this line by line.
We don't need to go through the details, that's fine.
Yeah, and I
If you agree, I'm fine with that.
think we agree, like for the sign, the tennis court sign, all those things, yes.
That's fine.
And likewise, it's my understanding from the engineering review. Are there any issues with the best report? I don't think. the one part that we're different there, is on page 16, we had proposed 21-inch high,
21 feet.
21-foot heights, and you wanted 18 feet.
No, but that, I don't want it, it's as per the redevelopment plan. Pedestrian lights not greater than 18.
We'll need it.
Yeah, so, okay. That's what you had said, or?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's the design waiver that came up in, about the trash storage facility at the clubhouse, because we can't put three sides of landscaping, because one of those sides is the wall of the building and the other is the gate. You can't agree with that.
That was in a prior letter, you provided testimony to that. So I think we're talking about tonight, the current letters.
Well, we did let the testimony list.
Like I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we're talking about changes or any issues you have with the current letters based on tonight's new information.
I think that's the only thing that is in the engineering letter.
The only thing in the engineering letter that's in addition to what was previously in the engineering letter is the section on the subdivision. There's 3 comments on page 15. First comment is the same, but there is some additional information based on the subdivision, and then comments 2 and 3. I suspect we agree with those.
Yes. So we can comply.
Junko, would you add into your homeowners association point of folks should keep their lawn chairs turned over and flat, and to add a little jocularity to this August group here, no pigeon coops on the roof. No pigeon coops on the roof, it's out from Brooklyn.
No pigeons? No chickens?
No pigeons. I'm just kidding, they're not allowed.
If you want that in there.
I'm just kidding, they're not allowed in the town.
But the one chair, you can certainly.
Yes.
Somebody's got them. They're flying around on you right
Any other questions from the board? Of anything here this evening? All right, we'll give you one more chance here to make any comments you want now of everything we've heard tonight.
Well, this again, entire application.
You're right, I apologize. It's everything on the application. So we get the comments now. Give them to me now. Or forever hold your peace.
I would just like to read 3 things.
We know it's monitoring.
Yes, thank you. Page 37 of the redevelopment plan. It says relationship to the master plan and state plan, the objectives. Number 3, to provide adequate light, air, and space. Number 5, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities in locations that will contribute to the well-being of persons and neighborhoods and preservation of the environment. Now, that one to me doesn't apply to the people that live around this project. Number 10, to enhance the various neighborhoods throughout the township by providing for appropriate redevelopment. Again, does not reflect the current surrounding neighborhoods to the project. And then this last principle here, encouraging residential development in locations and at densities which are compatible with existing development patterns. Again, this is 3 or 4 things related to the master plan that to me feel like they're associated with what all these people have been coming up here talking about for the last few meetings that we've had. And I understand in some ways it's compatible to the redevelopment plan, but in some ways it's not. So I would just appreciate if the board would think about this carefully before they approve this project and understand that, you know, people have been coming here, spending a lot of free time at these meetings because it will affect their quality of life. It's not just because they want to hang out here. you know? So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. You know, this is really important. This is the township master plan, which is here to protect the community, not just for future development. Thank you for that.
Just note that the master plan is a guiding document. It doesn't control the redevelopment plan.
And it does, and the points that Ms. Manning alluded to are very subjective. It is my professional opinion as well as Mr. Ryan's opinion that it is indeed in compliance with the master plan. We did a presentation to the board a year ago on the board.
These are not ordinance or redevelopment
These are not
standards. These are statements made in the master plan that refer to the redevelopment plan, but they're not binding and they're not part of the redevelopment plan. As restrictions or guides as to how the property is being
It's just one requirement of the redevelopment law that.
It has to be included in the redevelopment site. It is, it's there.
It's not governing the rest of the standards.
Anyone else? You haven't been here before, come on up.
Is this about just tonight or the whole project?
The whole project. The whole project. Just to be clear, the residential portion. What all of it?
Warren House, 41 Collins Drive, Middletown.
I think that is.
Please spell your last name.
Houck.
And what is your address?
41 Collins Drive.
What's your right name?
Hey, just briefly, because I know it's late, one small aspect of this, which was discussed last week, was they were talking about not putting a sidewalk in along Kings Highway East. And my concern, which, because I was asking the guy about it last time, if you remember, there's one section of Kings Highway East where there's no sidewalk on either side, or there wouldn't be with this development. And that side, there's no shoulder, there's steep walls, so it's very dangerous for pedestrians or cyclists. So my concern is that there should be a sidewalk going in there, if you guys There was the discussion that they were going to, instead of put a sidewalk in, donate money to the Middletown sidewalk foundation. I'd rather like to see a sidewalk go in. The one thing, there's the discussion about taking out trees. The thing is, if you look just a quarter mile down the road, there was a housing development there that Hovanian did. You can see they left a big row of mature trees, so they had, street, trees, and sidewalk. So Hovanian was able to do it just down the street. So, take a look at that. So that's my only concern is that you should if you're going to approve this, make sure this is safe for pedestrians, because you're going to have more traffic. I think everyone's kind of on agreement. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So when my husband and I were first house hunting in this area, I was pregnant, we were looking for a home for our new family. We chose our neighborhood based on what we observed in current surrounding neighborhoods. And we understood that a new development was going to happen in the open space behind our home. However, there was a recent development still in progress on the other side of our neighborhood that was reasonably spaced to fit in with the existing neighborhood. And we were confident that any new developments that would happen behind our home would kind of adhere to this train of thought and not build homes that were completely out of character to surrounding neighborhoods. After seeing the plan for this development, we became concerned for a number of reasons. The lack of open space compared with our neighborhood, the increased traffic on already crowded roads, and the influx of children, additional kids in the school systems, which are seemingly a little on the crowded side. What we didn't anticipate was 10 to 12 feet of dirt being dumped just steps behind our home and then being built on top of that. And how that complements the existing neighborhood is a little baffling. My question is who will be responsible for remediating increased water in my yard after the builders are gone? Tonight it was explained that there would be some drainage provided, but I don't recall seeing any drawings for that, and I'm pretty sure I haven't missed any other meetings here in the last year at least, so I'd be curious to see what those are before this all gets approved, or at least hopefully you guys get to see it before a vote is made on this tonight. I also am highly concerned about why an environmental study is happening after this is approved instead of before. What type of landfill is being piled up just behind my home? This was a working farm at some point. Potential pesticides, oil, gas, excessive fertilizer. The runoff will fall directly onto my property. As much as they say it won't, it's likely going to happen. I just don't understand why we can't have an environmental study done prior to approving this. I also am concerned with how long I'm going to be hearing bulldozers. I understand it's a 5-year project, but is that a reality? Who's going to hold them to just 5 years? Excuse me. Bordering vegetation is minimal and won't be planted before this new hill is created behind my home. And it's going to take decades for new trees to develop into mature trees. So it's going to directly affect the quality of life for my family, for my son, all my neighbors. Unfortunately, some of my neighbors couldn't be here tonight because it's first day of school or the day before first day of school for a lot of people. So I know they share the same concerns that I do. And I just wish that instead of maybe a vote being decided upon tonight, that just there was a little bit more consideration. I appreciate everyone's time. I know it's late, so thank you.
Anyone else? All the way in the back.
Once again, Bill Cass. As I stated, I'm the executive director of the Mountain Conservation Foundation, whose mission is to save open space, preserve farmland, create parks, safeguard waterways, and protect the wildlife. This particular project before you this evening violates all of our mission objectives. It does not create sufficient usable open space. It does not create parks. It eliminates farmland. It destroys habitat. It harms wildlife, and it affects the water quality. For all of those reasons, I respectfully request that you reject this application. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, make a motion to close the public portion. All in favor? Aye. So moved.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. The problem with the roof decks was troubling to me since the prior meeting. I looked over all the information here and everything you provided, which I appreciate. I looked at the executive summary. I looked at all of the rules and regulations. At this point, I would like to make a motion to accept the application without the roof decks. Having no roof decks at all.
So you're making it, just so we're all clear, you're making a motion for approval
Approval of the application minus the roof decks. decks, all the roof decks. And for a number of concerns I have, but without going into all of them, that's the motion I would like to make at this point.
Procedurally, can we vote on that? Because there are other variances that
But I think that the motion would be with the approval of the variances and with the approval of the design exception, the design waivers that have been noted, and with the other conditions that have been set forth over the last, 3 or whatever meetings per week.
we impose any condition that they don't provide these things, right? That's
Well, that the motion was made without roof decks.
right. I'll second that.
And is everyone eligible? I never voted.
I didn't have an opportunity to make a closing statement. Unless I
Oh, wait.
was part of it.
I understand that, but there's a motion. I understand that it's late, and perhaps, at this stage, making a statement would be something you want to do, but there's a motion, procedurally, there's a second, there's a vote. I think the board can proceed if Joe can choose. My question is everybody out here eligible? Yes. So we have everybody. Yes. I'll leave it up to the chair. Go back.
It is only late in the game for that, the motion on the floor, because now you're going to do your closing argument based on the motion.
I was only going to address.
And you know.
Mr. Rattu?
Yes.
Mrs. Snell?
No. Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
This is a motion for approval minus the terrace.
Yes.
The roof decks.
Mr. Wright?
No.
Mr. Colangelo?
No.
Mr. Mercies?
No.
Mr. Burson?
Yes.
Mr. Zeplicki?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
I 5-3. So that motion passed. That's, just have approval. Well, that's the motion. That's what that's how we'll make it.
So that everybody understands, we approve the application minus any movements. All right. That lady.